you paint your face when it's 90 degrees outside? Well, it's when your team has won 15 out of 18. The White Sox have done just that. And tonight they're digging in against the Cincinnati Reds. Both the Reds and the White Sox have lost some key players. They are making do and trying to make some waves. From Comiskey Park, Interleague Baseball Thursday on Fox Family. Two teams that are getting by, and maybe, in the case of the White Sox, doing better than that. Chicago has played great ball of late. They entertain the Reds on a sweltering night tonight here in Chicago. Josh Lewin along with Kevin Kennedy, very nice to have you with us. And I guess the big question, Kevin, how have the White Sox done this if Frank Thomas is out for the year?
Well, the last 3.5 weeks they've done it with timely hitting. They're starting to use the field, go the other way, especially Maglio Ordonez, their all-star each of the last 2 seasons. A rough start in April and May. Now he's really swinging a bat. A very hot June, hitting 426 in the month of June, and historically he hits over 370 in the month of June. He's picking up the slack for the missing Frank Thomas in this ball club right now.
The White Sox have gotten a big lift as well from their young pitching. There's a 29-year-old, though, on the mound tonight. We can't call him one of the young guns, but he needs a big start tonight.
Well, he feels like he's got a new arm, fortunately. James Baldwin had surgery last year, arthroscopic surgery on the right shoulder. Has had a rough start so far, not healthy in March, finally came back, and now he's getting into the swing of things. Jerry Manuel says this is a critical start tonight for James Baldwin because his velocity has not been in the 90s like it was a year ago, 88 to 89 maybe. The key tonight, if he gets his curveball over and uses it a lot, that's when you'll know if James Baldwin's feeling pretty good tonight.
And the Reds, without Larkin, without Griffey, they are still scoring some runs. I guess they have Sean Casey to thank for that.
Oh, this guy's a fun guy in Major League Baseball. He's the one bright spot for Bob Boone. Sean Casey loves to play, always has a smile on his face, media savvy, and you will have a smile on your face when you're a 335 hitter, and this guy historically is a 330 hitter. He'll hit about 25 to 30 home runs, and wait till he gets Griffey back and Larkin. Both those guys are due back soon. They're going to have a pretty good offense when those two guys get back.
You bet. The Reds and the White Sox tonight. Summer has arrived a week early at Comiskey, and the White Sox heating up already. They're taking on the Reds coming up next. Thursday Night Baseball on Fox Family, brought to you by Toyota. More choices, better selection. Experience Toyota today. By Lotrimin AF, get the cure that's proven to kill athletes' foot on the whole foot. Lotrimin AF, the killer cure. And by Sears Craftsman Tools. In Chicago, where it topped out at 93 degrees this afternoon, the Chicago White Sox are just about that hot themselves. After a 14-29 start, they have tugged themselves up to 29-32. Kevin, I know it doesn't sound like much, but boy, they have come on tremendously, even with Frank Thomas and a lot of others out of the lineup.
It's tough to come back from a deficit like that. I can relate back to 1995 at the All-Star break. We were actually 96. We were 13 games under 500. Came back with a nice stretch at the end and almost won the wild card. The White Sox are in a very similar situation, Josh, but they're only a few games under 500 now, and they're actually back in the pennant race.
They're banking on James Baldwin tonight. He was an All-Star last year. In fact, was the winning pitcher of the All-Star game last year. But this year, off to a 2-4 start. The run support has been brutal, admittedly. But he has not won, Kevin, since May the 13th.
Well, they're still concerned about his velocity. Jerry Manuel, I talked to him before the ball game, and as I said in the open, his velocity is not what it was a year ago. And usually when you have any kind of surgery, arthroscopic in the shoulder, as Baldwin did, it takes a full year before you're back.
Underway, Alex Ochoa is down 0-1.
Here it is right here, James Baldwin. The reason it's critical, Jerry Manuel has concern about his velocity. He said, watch for that outstanding curveball. If he does not throw it a lot.
And Baldwin barehanding this one, gets Alex Ochoa.
If he doesn't throw the curveball a lot, it means he's not feeling well. Well, the first 2 pitches of the ball game are curveballs, so that's good news for Jerry Manuel.
That scouting report, by the way, brought to you by Sears Craftsman. Here's the Nissan batting order now. And we've heard from Alex Ochoa of the Reds already. Michael Tucker. We've talked about Sean Casey at first. Dimitri Young, Ruben Rivera, Bill Selby, Jason LaRue. Guy by the name of Deion Sanders is the DH.
Remember him.
A lot more on him as we go tonight. Pokey Reese, the shortstop. And Michael Tucker takes inside. That's Greg Gibson calling balls and strikes for us, by the way. Rip and a miss. James Baldwin. You know, he's only struck out 13 guys this entire season, Kevin. And this is his 13th game.
Yeah, and he's normally a guy that'll strike out about 120, 130 men a year. That is not a good percentage. 13 strikes, only 17 walks. But that tells you right there he's not blowing it by people. He's going to have to finesse the ball. Giving up 10 home runs, that's a lot in only 57 innings.
Now, do you figure the strikeout numbers being down, is that partly because of the shoulder surgery last October?
I think the ball straightened out a little bit too. Now, so far tonight he has thrown a pretty good two-seamer with some movement. There's one right there. If the ball straightens out, you're throwing the balls 87, 88 miles an hour, you're going to get hit. You're not going to put it by people. And if he hasn't been throwing the curveball, as Jerry Manuel said as much, then you're basically a one-pitch pitcher. And 88 and straight, you're going to get hit.
Missing badly there on 3-2. So Michael Tucker is on with a one-out walk. Kev, you want to meet the defense?
Let's do it.
Let's meet the defense. Take you around the horn here. And to show you Paul Konerko at first is brought to you by Nissan. Ray Durham, the steady second baseman. Joe Creedy is the third baseman in for the injured Herbert Perry. Royce Clayton has his gig back because Jose Valentin is injured. Carlos Lee is in left. Chris Singleton in center. Maglio Ordonez in right. And the catcher slumping lately is Josh Paul. Sean Casey eyeballs a strike. Sean Casey, 335 overall, 380 on the road, though.
Well, he's an interesting guy. I really like the way this guy hits. I like his batting stance. Look at how he has that open stance, like a lot of guys are using these days. And then as he goes to stride, he'll stride right at the pitcher.
Hounds it over to first, Konerko. And the return is a beauty. Konerko is on the bag. What a hurdle out there by Royce Clayton. An acrobatically turned double play. No score, bottom of the first coming up. Boos quite often at Comiskey this year. Just turned a neat double play. We are scoreless into the bottom of the first. And we'll say hello to the Chicago White Sox as they come to the plate. This is brought to you by Nissan. Ray Durham, Chris Singleton, Carlos Lee, and then Maglio Ordonez. And that home run total way up there for the year at 14. Konerko and the veteran Harold Baines, Joe Creedy, Royce Clayton, and Josh Paul. And we'll get you now to the red starter. That's the right-hander Osvaldo Fernandez.
Well, Osvaldo Fernandez is the guy that's going to sink the ball about 88 to 89 miles an hour. Very, very fast worker. He'll throw a variety of pitches from a lot of different arm angles. Tries to make it tough, especially on the right-handed hitters by dropping down or a little bit three-quarters. But the righties are hitting 337 off of him this year. And his earned run average is pushing 6.5. Not very good at all. Opponent's batting average 320. So the White Sox, who have won 15 out of 18, want to continue that string right now and try to jump out early against Fernandez. Now, Fernandez, Josh, also a guy that had surgery a couple of years ago. He had the Tommy John surgery. And watching him in warm-ups, he's a guy that steps across his body. And when you step across your body badly, you're going to put pressure on your elbow, and that has not been corrected because I'm watching him right now. And that's something I'm going to watch tonight.
Osvaldo Fernandez, his nickname back in his native Cuba was El Guajiro, Spanish for the peasant. Fernandez indeed from a poor, kind of modest little farming town. And on the Cuban national team, he figured to be the least likely player to try and defect, but he did. Going first to the Giants and now to the Reds. He is 1-1 on Ray Durham.
He's a guy, since he's come to the United States, has never been healthy. In June of '97, he was also hurt, surgery on the right elbow. The Tommy John surgery in '98. He's just never had a healthy season in the big leagues.
Well, he'll fit right in on the Cincinnati team then. That is a bulging disabled list. And the Reds and the White Sox both. Off speed, looped towards the left field line. Michael Tucker racing over and is out of room and is into the stands.
Well, the wind took that one. That ball looked like he was going to be in play off the bat, but it's blowing from right to left. And a left-hand hitter, when he hits the ball to left field, the ball will slice toward that left field line, and it did. It sliced right out of play. Pretty nice wind right now going right to left.
In an odd time at which to be starting the game, too. A 6:05 local start. So we'll see what effect the shadows will play in the early going tonight as well. Another foul by Durham.
Now, Ray Durham is a guy that Jerry Manuel has put in the 3 spot recently, and I asked Ray before the ball game, where does he prefer to hit? Lead off. He's a guy that can steal 35 to 40 bases, and he can also hit you a few home runs. Or do you prefer to hit third? He said, I really liked it in the 3 spot. He's a switch hitter, and he can run, and he's a pretty good hitter. And this guy's also been an all-star.
And a nice luxury for Jerry Manuel. You can hit him lead off. You can hit him 3. Not surprised at all, Kevin, that he gave you that answer about where he prefers to hit. Von Joshua, who was the hitting coach till about a month ago, liked to tell the story about Durham at the White Sox Winterfest the year before last, when Ray approached him, said, I'm going to hit you 30 home runs this year. And Von said, no. We need you to just get on base.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I asked him about Gary Ward. We just saw a shot at Gary, the new hitting coach, and I asked Ray, I said, who has told you what? Is everybody concerned about you hitting for power? He said, no. He said, really, nobody's ever bothered me. He said, once in a while when they pitch me in, I'm able to turn on the inside fastball, and I'll hit one out to right field. He said, that's really the case. I'm not trying to.
Gets around on this one, and he pegs it towards the right field corner. Durham on his way for 2. A terrific at bat. He was raining foul balls all over the place.
Well, the exact pitch that he told me about before the ball game is the pitch that he's able to hit for power. Now, he didn't hit this ball out, but he's able to turn on the inside fastball. That's what Osvaldo Fernandez did. He tried to jam him inside. Watch Ray Durham, how quick he is. Short strike, gets his hands inside the ball. That's a beautiful swing. Look at the balance. Great finish. And once he hits it, I mean, he's out of the box quickly. He can fly. He's a 3-9 runner from the left side down the line, which is well above average.
And the 8th pitch of that sequence ends up in the right field corner for the double. Here is Singleton now, and he is wearing his hitting streak 12.
Real pleasant young man, great personality. I've gotten to know him the last couple of years. He's always obliging to the media, does a lot of radio shows, TV shows. He loves the game. He's having a nice year. He had a little off year last year, even though the White Sox had the best record in the American League. Chris personally had a bad year for him, and he's back up on top now, hitting over 290.
Showing the bunt and taking outside.
Well, situation, Josh, obviously Singleton's job is to hit the ball to the right side. The corners are in for Cincinnati, and they're looking bunt. Jerry Manuel will do anything at third base. That's Dimitri Young. Casey over there at first base.
The bunt spins fair. It's up to LaRue, who hustles it over there, and it did not move the runner. So Ray Durham actually ends up right where he started, and the bunt did not pan out. Defensively for the Reds is brought to you by Nissan. Here's Sean Casey as we take you around the horn. Bill Selby is at second base because Pokey Reese has had to move. Dimitri Young is out of position at third. Reese is at short for the injured Barry Larkin. There is Pokey Reese in the outfield. Michael Tucker. Ruben Rivera is in center. Alex Ochoa is in right. Jason LaRue deftly handled that bunt moments ago. Carlos Lee takes down an outside.
He really did. That was a nice play by LaRue. The bunt that Singleton put down was bunting for a base hit, and if he didn't do that, he wanted to get the job done, getting the runner to third base. He did not execute that. He wanted to make the third baseman field the ball and leave his position, but LaRue came out and made a nice play.
Lee ahead, 2 balls and no strikes, and well, to try and test out Dimitri Young, maybe not a bad ploy either. Dimitri's only played third base for about a week now.
Well, I think the thing, when you're on a roll like this and you've won 15 out of 18, you want to get on the board first, and that's what Jerry Manuel wanted to do and has instructed his guys. Let's play some little ball, execute, set it up for the big guys. Let's get on the board early. And Singleton actually did that on his own, but those are instructions that your hitting coach gives you before the game, or your manager says, hey, if the situation presents itself, go ahead and put one down. Get the man over. Lee is hot now. Ordonez is hot now. We'll get on the board early for James Baldwin because, as you mentioned, Josh, the run support for Baldwin has not been there so far this year.
Nope, just 3 runs a game. And remember, this is a Chicago White Sox team last year that was smacking the ball all over the place. They scored close to 1,000 runs last year.
Well, Jerry Manuel, Narder Contreras, the pitching coach, sitting to his left. Both of those guys, Josh, you see ball 4, were in Montreal together. They know each other extremely well. Nardy is closest to us.
And that is all kinds of offense last year. Of course, it fizzled out in the playoffs. They did nothing against Seattle, got unceremoniously swept.
I guess they get all these glasses. They have a giveaway going on in Chicago.
Yeah, those guys go to the same optician, it would appear. Here's Ordonez now. And Maglio Ordonez, you talked about it right at the top, Kevin, hitting .426 in June and has put this team on his back.
Well, look for him to go the other way. That's the secret for Maglio Ordonez. What he was trying to do when Thomas was out, he got away from his normal game plan, tried to pull the ball too much, tried to hit every pitch out of the ballpark, started hitting out of the zone, meaning he would chase high pitches. This guy's a pretty disciplined hitter. Otherwise, you could not be a 2-time All-Star as he's been the last couple of years. So look for him when he gets an off-speed pitch or a breaking ball to shoot it in the gap to right center field. That's how he hits best.
Ordonez in a hitter's count here, 2-0, and Mags doesn't need a lot of help because lately he's been pounding the ball. He had a home run Tuesday and followed it up last night as well. He's now got a total of 14 for the season.
And that's a nice swing, dead center field right there. See how quiet he is? And when I say quiet, Josh, I'm talking about little movement with the head. The head stays back, he has a very short stride, and when you have little movement like that, you can stay back on the baseball. Means you're seeing it very, very well.
Now Fernandez wanders into a dangerous neighborhood here, 3-0 to a guy who doesn't mind airing it out, 3-0.
And Gary Ward was a hitter when he played that went opposite field, so he's ideal for this ball club. That's how Maglio Ordonez has hit throughout his career, opposite field. He'll pull the ball when it's down and in, but for the most part, he's a good hitter in the gaps, left center, right center. And he would have the green light right here, as hot as he is.
Takes up and in instead. The bases are loaded. And just one out in the inning. Paul Konerko coming up. And you see Bob Boone. He has seen this movie before. The Reds bullpen has been terrific, but the starting staff, again minus Pete Harnish, they are struggling to get things done. Durham, Lee, and Ordonez all aboard here. Konerko stepping in.
This is a situation right here with one out. You got a ground ball pitcher in Fernandez. It's a sinker ball pitcher. That's exactly what he wants. Konerko does not run well, so he's got to get this ball in the air. If he makes an out, it's got to be in the air to get at least one run in. So you actually make an adjustment as a hitter and make sure that you don't get on top of the baseball, that you hit slightly through it and underneath it with backspin to make sure it elevates.
And Konerko, not unlike Ordonez, not unlike Carlos Lee, one of these busting out in June stories. He's been great the last couple weeks. And already we're going to get a visit from Don Gullett, the pitching coach, who's heading out to try and talk down Fernandez.
And they should, because Fernandez is picking around. He's a nibbler, and it's one thing that Don Gullett hates is nibblers. He wants guys to go right after him. And Don Gullett's done a great job since he's become the Reds pitching coach. Pretty good pitcher in his own right. I know when Jack McKeon was here, he loved him.
Jack used to call him the patron saint of the impossible. Take these guys who need a good rescuing, and he would somehow turn them into a winning pitcher.
That's exactly right. And one thing about Don Gullett, which I believe, and it's really not a philosophy, you have to use your legs when you throw a baseball. If you don't use your legs, all the pressure goes to your arm. And you have to use your legs and have good alignment, good leverage going toward home plate. And that's what Gullett teaches his guys. Now Fernandez right now is just staying up, and when you stay up and don't bend your legs and don't plant that front foot correctly, you're going to throw the ball up in the zone, and that's what he's done these last two hitters.
Let's see what happens. First pitch post visit with the bases loaded.
See, he's not finishing it off, and that's a high strike right there, Josh. You're going to hear some boos right there, but today that's a strike. Now, some people say there is no such thing as a high strike. They're not seeing any difference. I do a lot of games, and I definitely see a difference. That ball is up in the zone.
And with the high strike called, it is 1-1 to Konerko. Looping this one into foul territory. LaRue going over. Will not have a play.
Well, what happened there? See, the high strike being called forces Konerko now to swing at the next one. So you can't tell me the high strike is not being called more this year. It is. Look at this pitch right here. That's the top of the zone right there. That's as high as you're going to go. And that's a call. And actually, that's a good call because by the book, that is a strike. And look at that. That's right at the top of the zone. The midpoint between the belt and just below your shoulders, that's the high strike. That's the top of the strike zone, and that's what Pitch Tracks just showed us. So that was a good call by Greg Gibson, according to the rule book.
Pitch Tracks brought to you by Questec. 1-2 the count. And Konerko bangs it to right. Ochoa back. Gone! They have scheduled a post-game fireworks show tonight. Little in-game first inning preview. The second career slam by Paul Konerko.
You know, there's nothing crisp about Osvaldo Fernandez's pitches this inning. This is a breaking ball up and away, and Konerko just sits on it, goes right with it, does not try to pull it. That's great concentration right there, and that's exactly what Gary Ward teaches. That's how Gary Ward, the new hitting coach, hit opposite field. Now, Vaughn Joshua did too, and I think Vaughn did a great job last year. Not to take anything away from Josh, but there is definitely a plan in batting practice with Gary Ward. He makes these guys the first couple of rounds use the field and go opposite field.
Now the 42-year-old DH Harold Baines ahead in the count, 2-1. And he's ahead all the way here. 3 balls, 1 strike. The White Sox yesterday a 3-run first inning. And thanks to the man on your screen, they've got a 4-run first inning already tonight. Tucker didn't see this ball initially. Left fielder just goes over, watches it drop out of play.
And that last pitch is the first ball I've seen Fernandez get down in the zone finally. Everything he's thrown this inning has been up above the belt. And you can't pitch up in the big leagues when you throw 85 to 87 miles an hour and it's not moving. You just can't do it. You can't live up there. You're going to get hit. You throw like Randy Johnson, that's a different story. 97, 98. You can blow it by guys. Not when you're throwing 10 miles less. It's good hitting speed, as good hitters will say.
Harold Baines takes a walk, the 3rd of the inning already. Now, we talked about how good the Reds bullpen has been this year, but you better believe they didn't want to show that off in the first inning. Fernandez has got to get this straight here. He's going to take on Joe Creedy next.
This situation, Bob Boone has really nobody stirring in the bullpen, so he's going to make Fernandez throw strikes. I mean, he's going to say, hey, the ball's yours. You got to do the job.
That's the 30th pitch of the inning already. That one was a strike ladled in there to Joe Creedy.
You get to a point where you got to say, hey, you know what? He might hit it at somebody, so I'll just lay it in there. I'm just going to throw a hard strike at you, hopefully with some movement, and maybe you'll hit a 6-4-3 double play.
1-2 now to young Joe Creedy.
The thing that just absolutely frustrates major league managers and pitching coaches are guys not going after hitters and pitching around them and walking guys that you have to throw strikes to. There's just no excuse for it.
Fernandez, keep in mind, has only once this year gotten through the 7th inning of any of his starts, and obviously not on a pace to do that tonight. 33 pitches already.
Yeah, you like 12 to 15 pitches an inning. That's norm. He's already twice that.
Not a 6-4-3 double play, but you were close. 4-6-3 is how it goes to finally end the inning. But the curtain drops only after Konerko's grand slam. White Sox stay hot, leading 4-0. Paul Konerko, the grand slam off the man to the right. Osvaldo Fernandez served it up, and it is 4-0. James Baldwin, we talked about it, doesn't get a lot of run support. He will be unable to make that claim tonight.
Well, that's exactly what James Baldwin needed. Nice 4 spot. The bottom of the first for him.
Dimitri Young airs it out, couldn't get it. I would imagine that does help you relax a little bit, eh?
Yeah, especially, you know, you're averaging less than 3 runs a game for him, and his record is under 500. And here's a guy that had some run support last year and won the All-Star game a year ago. Had a great first half, and in his career normally he has a terrible first half and a strong second half, so he has to use this right now as a starting point for him.
Little bloop. Royce Clayton, he is back on the grass to take it. 1 down the 2nd inning. We remind you tomorrow on FX Baseball, a special Friday night game, a rematch of last year's Subway Series. Derek Jeter and the world champion Yankees will hop the train and head over to Shea, take on Mike Piazza and the Mets. Coverage begins tomorrow at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific over on FX. Check local listings for start times in your area.
Now, I heard George Steinbrenner made a comment today.
Wait a minute, you're kidding? George Steinbrenner?
Yeah, he
made a
wished,
comment?
Yeah, he said, I wish David Wells was pitching against the Mets this Sunday.
Yeah, and all of a sudden there's a lot of conjecture that David Wells could be a Yankee by the weekend. Rip and a miss by Rivera.
Well, let me tell you something. I have some friends in high places here in Chicago that are very close to Mr. Reinsdorf, and they tell me that they're not looking to trade David Wells or anybody else in this ball club. They think they are back in the race, and I do too. I mean, they're playing good baseball, Josh. 15 out of 18 if they win tonight. That's 16 out of 19. And the only way you can get back in a race when you're 14, 15 games under 500 is start to play a series. Try to win series. 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4.
0-2 bounced over to second base. Ruben Rivera is out. Jerry Reinsdorf, is that one of your friends in high places?
Well, I have a friend working for Jerry actually that is very close to Jerry, and he said no, they're not looking to trade anybody in this ball club. Now, if somebody asks about David Wells, sure, they'll listen, but you know, they're only 11 games out. You know, I've been through this before myself. In 1995 in Boston, we won the division. 96, we started out 6-19. And everybody wanted to sell the farm. Everybody thinks in May and June, hey, well, we'll just sell our players to teams that are contending. With the wild card today, you don't do that. You got a chance with the wild card, and now they're almost at 500. That's your first goal, to get back to 500. Then you start making the climb up the ladder. And they're in 3rd place right now.
Bill Selby takes outside. I'll give Reinsdorf credit for one thing: smoking a cigar when it's 91 degrees out. I mean, wow.
Well, we know he made some major trades. What was it, 96, 95? Back there with Wilson Alvarez and Roberto Hernandez to the Giants. I think it was 97, was it? Yeah. Well, Jerry's done it before, so people are wondering, well, maybe he'll do it again. And you know what? A month ago, yeah, I'd say maybe there's a chance he trade David Wells and a few other guys, but right now I don't think so.
Now, that was the year they started the year with the billboard up by Wrigley. Real baseball 8.1 miles south. And then by August 6th of that year, the real baseball was actually 1,800 miles west. But boy, that trade now actually looks pretty good for him.
Yeah, well, you know, you got to have good evaluators when you make a trade like that. When you trade guys like Roberto Hernandez and Wilson Alvarez, you've got to have good evaluators that get good young players in return, and you project 3 or 4 years down the road. And that's what the White Sox have done. I relate it to the Knobloch trade with the Twins. Talking about the American League Central, the Twins are for real. I asked several players, and A couple of key guys are Christian Guzman and Eric Milton, who came over the Knobloch trade in 1998. So, you know, at the time, yeah, oh, you're losing an all-star second baseman in Knobloch, or you're losing a great pitcher like Wilson Alvarez. But what you get in return, you don't see that until a few years later.
Selby puts it in play, popping it up. And scampering in, Singleton. The wind really taking it. Singleton with a dive, and he made the catch. A little pitch, hit, and field for the Chicago White Sox in this one. They lead 4-0. The White Sox lead tonight 4-0. They lead the series, interleague series, against the Cincinnati Reds 8-2. Winning the game last night by the final of 4-2. 19-19 to neither of those teams. Not a single one of them managed by Kevin Kennedy.
No, you know, I've managed a lot of players, and you know, that last guy that hit that pop-up that Singleton caught, Bill Selby, yes, he played for me too. Believe it or not. You know, that was a great play by Singleton. I tell you, if he's right-handed, he doesn't make that play, but being a left-handed fielder, he had the glove hand stretched out, and the wind, as we've said earlier, is really blowing right to left. Really circling.
Fernandez into Clayton, and 1-1 the count. 19-19, the bottom flag. And you got to go back a couple of years from there to find the last World Series that actually stuck in the record books. Well, between the White Sox and the Cubs, they have not seen a lot of parades, a lot of confetti in the last several decades. Clayton, and it's heading up the middle, but there's Pokey Reese. Range of a middle linebacker, some of the scouts like to say, and he showed it off right there.
Yeah, here's a guy that I thought last year was probably the best second baseman defensively in baseball. He came up as a shortstop. McKeon moved him to second base with Barry Larkin at short when he was healthy. And Pokey Reese now very smooth back at shortstop, waiting for Larkin to get back. Great hands, great range both ways, left and right. And I'm sure we'll see more plays like that tonight. I mean, he just made that look easy.
Now Fernandez to Josh Paul, and the catcher takes a strike. You see he's hitting just $103 in the last couple weeks, but the rest of the Chicago White Sox have really picked it up. They have won 15 out of 18. Twisted out towards center. Ruben Rivera will put it away. You know, we talk about the sentiment surrounding the Cubs and the White Sox, and not a lot of positives have happened in the last 80 years or so, but you know, the last few weeks both these Chicago teams have been terrific.
No, they really have. But look at this team on top right here, the Mariners. 16 out of 18. They're playing almost 800 ball, and we're in the middle of June. And if you play 600 baseball, you usually win a pennant. They're playing 800 baseball.
Although they did lose today.
That's a shock.
Well, their lead has been trimmed to 17 in the AL West.
Where's Texas? 26, 27 out?
28 now.
28 out. You know, lost the last couple in L.A.
Kevin, no team has reached the All-Star break any more than 13 games up in their division or their league. Seattle threatens to go up by 20 at the All-Star break as Durham punches one foul.
And you know the thing about Seattle, yes, they lost A-Rod, they lost Griffey the year before, and Randy Johnson. They just replaced them with a bunch of guys playing well together. A well-designed team in Seattle, pitching and defense in that new ballpark at Safeco Field. And for people that have not seen Ichiro, he is for real. He is phenomenal.
Now the White Sox saw all they needed to of Seattle right at the end of last year. The Mariners swept the Sox right out of the playoffs in the first round. Fouled away by Durham. Matter of fact, Kevin, the White Sox, I mean, they had a home field advantage in that one. They were completely shut down. The White Sox, matter of fact, have lost their last 10 postseason home games dating back to the '59 World Series. That's incredible.
Well, they just didn't hit in the playoffs last year. Frank Thomas did not hit a lick. It wasn't really the pitching.
Pokey Reese once again. Ray Durham will take a seat. We're at the end of 2. The Konerko Grand Slam still standing up. 4-0 our score. Paul Konerko hit a grand slam to the opposite field in the bottom of the first, and that's why it is 4-0 Chicago right now. Interleague baseball on Fox Family. Thanks for joining us tonight. Kind of a war of attrition here. Both sides. The White Sox banged up. The Reds more than banged up. Difference is the White Sox have found a way to win. At least recently. They have come from 14-29 to within 3 games of 500. Jason LaRue smacks it out of play.
And you said the key word. Once you get to 500, you start becoming an above 500 team. Now you feel like, hey, we're a winning organization again. We're having a winning season, and we'll get back in the race and we'll start chipping away at the Minnesota Twins and the Cleveland Indians. And with the unbalanced schedule, that's good for the White Sox.
Here's a little bloop towards right. That is going to drop, and Jason LaRue is on. And a chance for Deion Sanders. Now, Deion Sanders once popped one up in Chicago, and therein lies the tale. Deion's fabled confrontation with White Sox catcher Carlton Fisk. Deion failing to run out a pop-up, and next time up, Fisk got all over him. Deion took exception to Fisk taking exception, and the bench is empty.
That was a long run in from that bullpen for those guys, too. That's John Hirschbeck in 1990, the home plate umpire, getting Fisk out of the way, and Fisk is from the old school. You play the big game the way it's supposed to be played. Now, do you see Psycho in there somewhere?
He's everywhere. Sanders trying to beat out a bunt. It is not going to happen. He is out at first, but on the play, LaRue to second base. Yeah, Steve Psycho Lyons, a camera hog even 11 years ago. We'll take a look at it again.
Oh, there he is. We got a number here. There he is. Look at the hair. Look at that hair right there. That's not TV hair. He's got that styled hair now.
And again, even then, Psycho almost took a bat to the head from an upset player.
There you go. Yeah, he's going to pop up. Oh, Deion giving our man some looks. And Don Mattingly. Steve said a few things. Way to go, Psycho. I like that. Steve's from the old school, you know.
Well, so was Tim McCarver. Deion, of course, a couple of years after that, dousing Tim with the buckets of water after the Braves won the NLCS.
Well, that's the question. Will Deion be here once Griffey gets back? And there's a chance that he'll be back very, very soon.
Pokey Reese grounding it to third. Creedy reaching out and gets it over for the second out of the inning. Now, something about Deion and Fox guys. I don't know. Lyons, McCarver. You guys are tight.
He hasn't done it to me. No, you know. You know, he got off such a great start when they called him up. 3 hits in that first game, hit a home run, had a bunt single, stole a base, and since that time, Deion Sanders has not done a thing. 10 for 71. I mean, he just has not done a thing for Bob Boone. It's tough for Bob to put him in there every day. Bob wanted to give him an opportunity because he hit so well in AAA. That's why he got called up. He worked his way all the way back. But I talked to Bob before the ball game, and he's really looking forward to Barry Larkin getting back and Ken Griffey Jr., who does not even have a hit this year. He's 0 for 12, Jr. as a pinch hitter. Would you believe that a year ago if somebody said, well, what's Jr. going to be hitting how many home runs by June the 14th? He doesn't even have a hit yet.
Yeah, 0 would have been the under. This ball scoots in the center. Ochoa a base hit. And the Reds are on the scoreboard. A 2-out single. Alex Ochoa has been great on this road trip. And the Reds slice it down to 4-1.
You know, Ochoa's a pretty good hitter. Not too many people know a whole lot about him. He's hitting .316. He had a good year last year. And this is the type of guy you put in the lineup. Stands away from the plate. That's just a hanging breaking ball right there. Hit it right back through the middle. And Royce Clayton was playing a little bit to pull. I mean, that's up and out over the plate. 79-mile-an-hour curveball. Not a good pitch.
Pitch tracks brought to you by Questec. Deep drive, Tucker, left field, at the wall, reeled in by Carlos Lee. Hits are even in this game at 2, but the White Sox lead it 4-1. Chicago White Sox leading, heading to the bottom of the third tonight on Fox Family. 4-1 the score against the Cincinnati Reds. And the White Sox, remember, got off to that dismal start, 2-8, 14-29, but here they come.
Look at Minnesota right here. Nobody thought they would be 41-22. I did talk to Jerry Manuel about that. I said, did you believe these guys are for real? He said, yeah, I thought they were good last year, especially with that pitching.
Standings brought to you by Fram, and Cleveland, of course, right there as well over in the NL Central.
Well, Josh, a little switch this year, huh? Different Chicago team in first place at this point of the season, the Cubs.
And that's something. St. Louis now 5.5 back. The White Sox go there tomorrow. Singleton popping this one out of play. We're underway, bottom of the third.
And the Cubs have done it with pitching. They've been at the top of the National League all season long. Even better earned run average as a team than the Braves.
You saw the numbers on Chris Singleton. I like to say his story, Kevin, is along the lines of the MGM movie exec who said about Fred Astaire's screen test, can't act, can't sing, can dance a little. That's essentially what the Yankees.
That's true, actually. I read that somewhere.
And that's what the Yankees thought of Singleton, and now winning Oscars in Chicago, so to speak. And the Yankees just flat out got rid of him. Nice play by Sylvie, then he falls down.
I wonder whose job Singleton's going to take, you know, as a TV commentator. Now, Bill Selby's normally a third baseman, came up as a third baseman. He's not really a true middle infielder. He just got his feet tangled up. Nice play to backhand it. Take a look, crossover right there. He got his left cleat caught, and then the right one tripped up the left one, and it was all over.
Carlos Lee, who walked in the first inning.
Yeah, Bill Selby came up in the minor leagues with Boston. He was a third baseman, had a lot of power from the left side, and actually I had to put him at second base because we didn't have a second baseman that was healthy in 1996, and that's really when he started playing some second. But his best position is really on the left side.
And again, to flash you back to that 1996 team, Kevin in charge of the Boston Red Sox, a team that started 6-19, 36-49 around the All-Star break,
That's
and then everything clicked.
Yeah, you know, and the thing we had to do, Josh, is not panic the players as our coaching staff. We had great coaches, Jim Rice, Frank White. We had guys that had been through it before, and we just had to make sure the players knew that, hey, we weren't looking to sell the players off. And that's the thing the White Sox have to be careful of. At least now they're starting to win. We didn't start winning until after the All-Star break. They're winning now. And therefore, I don't think the trade talk for David Wells is viable right now. I don't think that they have any interest in trading David Wells. Once you get to 500, and then you start creeping in the standings, you get under 10 games back, you get to 9 games back, then you're in the race again.
Well, here's a challenge, though. I mean, just to throw some cynicism on it. It's one thing to chase just one team in front of you, but they've got the Twins and the Indians. They're 11 back of both of them.
Well, hey, we chased 4. We were in dead last in 1996, and we missed the wild card by 2 games against Baltimore. But we had to do it by playing a couple of months where we were 22-7. And that's a long haul.
It's going to be interesting too, because the Indians and the Twins play each other 15 more times, and the White Sox will have their chances against both those teams. They've got the Twins 13 more times. They have not beaten them yet. They're 0-6 against them.
Well, that's why the new schedule is going to help them, because they can play the Twins and the Indians head to head, especially late in the season when you really want to, that stretch in September. And as Jerry Manuel and I talked about before the game, 1 game means 2 games. When you're not playing the team that's ahead of you, you have to watch the scoreboard. And you can win that night, but they can win and you don't pick up any ground.
Carlos Lee twisting this one back and out of play. Carlos Lee can straighten those out, though. He did yesterday. His 10th home run of the year.
Oh, that's a quick bat right there. High fastball, middle in. Wow.
You can put it on the board.
Well, he's a .313 hitter coming into this ball game. 10 home runs.
Takes, and LaRue thought about gunning it down to first.
Well, LaRue's a good defensive catcher. That's what he's known for. Quick feet, strong arm. We saw that on that bunt attempt by Singleton. He just fired him out. Came out behind the box, fielded it, and threw Singleton out. So he's tough to run on.
Oh, and if anything gets out of whack mechanically, he's got a manager who can certainly help him twist back into shape. Bob Boone, who caught 2,225 big league ball games.
And Bob's forte, he was one of the best receivers in the game. Really sat back there quietly, gave a good target. Pitchers love throwing to Bob Boone. Now, Singleton has 8 stolen bases, but he has been caught 6 times. I'm not seeing Bob Boone give a lot of signs to Jason LaRue, meaning he's not giving him a pitch out sign or a throw over. At least he's not doing it like a lot of managers do by going to his face, his ear, or his nose.
Lee shoots one to right field. Alex Ochoa reaches up and makes the catch. We talk about Bob Boone. I think a lot of people remember him as a Philadelphia Phillies catcher. He also, of course, is with the Angels as well. But 2,225 games caught, and that stood as a record for a little while. And then along came a fellow named Pudge Fisk, who squeezed by him. 2,226. So there.
Well, I was managing in Texas. I think Pudge's last year was 93, I believe. And really, he played with the White Sox that year just mainly to get that record.
Boone must feel like he's caught the equivalent of 3 more games just watching Fernandez toss over to first here.
Yeah, this is not what you want to see from Fernandez. A guy supposed to work quickly, throw strikes, has not been doing it. He's been nibbling around the plate. He's got a lot of pitches at this point. You're not going to see him get past the 5th inning.
Pitching out and almost pitching it back to the screen as well. LaRue some vertical.
Now, Bob Boone's got his arms folded right there, and he may be one of those managers that just does a flash sign. See how he's got his left arm folded over his right? That could be the pitch out sign. What he's doing right now with his hand up at his chin, that could be a throw over sign. And I'll tell you the reason I know that is because I used to do that. I did not like to go to, well, like most managers do, the hand to the chin to the ear, because you can pick those signs out. I like to use what I just call a flash sign. I'd be talking to you, Josh, and I'd give it a sign to my catcher, and you wouldn't even know it. Now, so Bob, I'm going to catch you tonight because I'm going to watch you in there. He's got his arms folded now and crossed. That could mean something else.
Are most guys comfortable with that? I mean, do they prefer it that way, or would they rather it some way else?
It's actually easier if you do that. Now, I'm going to give you my secret. I have a pitch out sign where his hands are right now. When I lifted my right hand over my left elbow, that was my pitch out sign. When the catcher saw my fingers on my right hand,
that's
just
it?
like that. That was one of my pitch out signs. I had other signs too. But I'll tell you one team that's tough over there in the Chicago, that's Joe Nosek, the White Sox. They steal signs better than anybody. I mean, they can decode the opposition, that man right there, better than anybody in baseball. And so you have to be an actor as a third base coach, as a manager, the way you give your signs. And Bob Boone is very well aware of that.
Runner goes finally after all that, and they got him. Chris Singleton now leading the league in being caught stealing. That's 7 times he's been nailed.
Well, see, there was a lot going on here in the last 3 minutes between Boone, Jason LaRue, Fernandez, thrown over it a couple times, the pitch out attempt, great release, great footwork, perfect throw to Bill Selby right there to nail Singleton. There was a lot going on. Singleton, not a bad jump, straight steal, not even looking back, but LaRue just throws it right on the money, about 6 inches off the ground on the second base side of the bag. That's what you want. Perfect throw.
Now the 3-1 to Ordonez, and that's strike 2.
Now Boone, now you saw Boone a minute ago. See, now he doesn't have his arms folded, so there's definitely something in his signs. I'm sorry, Bobby, I'm giving your secrets away, but I'm going to decode you up here. Now he's nice and relaxed. See, arms not folded, just got the leg up. That's the fun of managing. It's just a cat and mouse game.
There goes Ordonez, and he gave it a little Sammy Sosa skip step as he came out of the box. He knew it. Home run, and the White Sox lead it 5-1. all that energy expended on keeping Singleton close to the bag. And then just a little bit after that, Ordonez goes very, very deep.
Yeah, well, we talked about his hot June. This guy hitting .426 in June already. That's a sinker down and in. Very quiet. Watch Ordonez. No head movement at all. Very short stride. Perfect swing. That's why this guy's been a two-time All-Star the last couple of years. And he may be again this year.
There goes Konerko, drilling that one to left field. And the ball skips out of play. It's an automatic double. He's got a grand slam and a double now in the first 3 innings. And Osvaldo Fernandez does not seem long for this game.
No, Don Gullett was on the phone. The bullpen was up as soon as Ordonez hit that home run that got out in like a laser shot. The bullpen was up, and Don Gullett's going to give the bullpen a little time. And Ordonez is a guy that has great balance. He's kind of got a spread out stance, great balance, very little head movement, meaning he does not jump at the ball. He can wait to the last moment. Watch him. Now watch his head. Now go ahead and roll it. See if that head stays in that circle. See, the head does not move right there, even on contact. Look at how he gets his hands inside the baseball. He brings that right elbow in tight because that ball was down and in, and that's perfect balance right there from Maglio Ordonez. I mean, that was just a beautiful swing. And that ball ran in on him. It was actually not a bad pitch. That's probably one of the best pitches Fernandez has thrown with movement and down, but that's how hot Maglio Ordonez is and why he's such a good hitter. He's able to hit a good pitcher's pitch.
And as you mentioned, there is action in the bullpen now as Jim Brower has gotten up. 2 down to Harold Baines to the plate. A run in. Konerko at second. And Baines lifting one to left field. Michael Tucker has the range, has the baseball, and ends the inning. A single, a double, and also a home run in the inning. It's 5-1. 5-1 White Sox. Tim Foley wired up for your pleasure. Fox Sounds of the game. He chatted with Jason LaRue.
I thought he called the pitch you threw him out on a strike.
No.
Where was it?
It wasn't. I mean, I thought it was a strike, but he called it a ball. I mean, it was borderline. He's everywhere, so.
Borderline where?
And we'll get you to that pitch in just a moment. The 2 men referenced. First, Sean Casey floats one to left field. There's one down top of the 4th.
Well, here's the pitch, Josh, that they're talking about that Foley thought from the bench it looked like a strike. The height was there, but it ran inside. Take a look. That's up and in. It's actually off the inside corner, and it's up. Now, the height is probably okay according to Greg Gibson's strike zone, but the ball missed off the inside corner, so that was not called a strike, and it's the right call by Greg Gibson. So, and as you heard Jason LaRue say to Tim Foley, well, he's all over the place, so you're not going to get that pitch is what he's saying.
Little get down in the first base coaching box. Bill Doran bending out of the way.
Well, Bill was a middle infielder, played 12 years in the big leagues. He can handle it. He could run too. He had good speed. Good little ball player.
Yep. If you had him on your rotisserie team in the mid 80s when he was with the Astros, you got to some pretty good numbers. Dimitri Young socking this one past the mound, and it just does glide into center field. Young, a wide turn, but now we'll come on back. Nobody's really getting fooled in this game. We are in the 4th inning. We have not seen a strikeout yet in this game.
No, and Baldwin only has 13 strikeouts all year long, so he's not fooling people with his stuff. But that actually had a little movement, and that ball jammed him. Take a look. Very little movement, actually. That was belt high. He didn't hit it all that great, but Durham was shaded more toward right field. But look at that pitch. That's kind of within the wheelhouse for Dimitri Young, although it did get in just a hair. But again, the velocity, look, it's only 88 miles an hour.
You're waiting for me to.
I am. Are you going to say it?
No. Oh, all right. It's brought to you by Questec.
That's why I got out. Pitch tracks.
Meantime, 1-0 the count to Ruben Rivera. He bounced out in the 2nd inning.
There's nothing wrong with throwing 88 if you've got location and movement. But in the past, Baldwin can throw 91 to 93, and he's just has not done that since the arm surgery. But again, in fairness to him, it takes a full year, any kind of surgery, until you're back to where you were. And his surgery was back in October.
Still James Baldwin. I mean, for all his success last year, the winning pitcher in the All-Star game. Yankees manager Joe Torre was shown a picture of Baldwin last year. He was asked to identify him. He couldn't. In fact, around baseball, few people can out of uniform. He remains anonymous, but last year was very impressive.
That's not good.
There's a strike in the count, 2-2. And I tell you, Baldwin, extremely community-minded, Kevin, on a team that was known for not being that community-minded the last few years. At the end of last year, White Sox owner Jerry Reinsdorf let him know he appreciated it and left him a big check in his locker at the end of the year. There's a strikeout, a rarity, the first tonight.
That was a four-seam power fastball. Looked like he had more on it. That had a little hop to it. That wasn't the two-seam sinker. He wanted to go for the punch-out right there, and he got it up in the zone. Just setting up inside. He got it up, out over the heart of the plate, but up a little bit. That's a pretty good pitch. That's a good sign.
14 strikeouts for the year. That's 6 fewer than the big unit had in one game this year.
Well, normally Baldwin averages about 5 to 6 strikeouts per 9 innings. That tells you a lot that the velocity is down, the stuff not quite as sharp. Not getting those 6 strikeouts a game. There's my man, Red Sox 96 among 55 other players we had on that 96 team.
You got to get him a better number than 54, though.
I think that's the number he had when he came up, you know. He did come up that year, hit a home run to right field in Cleveland off of Oral Hershiser, and Cleveland remembered that, so a year or two later he joined the Indians organization. He's had a little time in the big leagues, played in Japan. Good fastball hitter. Real good guy in the club. Real pleasant. I'm glad he's getting some playing time. Sure Bob Boone appreciates his attitude. Good attitude.
Baldwin backs him off the plate.
Now he's giving some signs the old conventional way.
Oh, sure, you scared him off his other one.
Bob's going to talk to me after the game.
Oh, you narked on him. Baldwin on 1-2. Selby cranks it towards the corner. That's bending away and is into the crowd.
He's got some power. Not a big guy as far as stature, but he's got some power. He's got some sock in that bat.
21 home runs last year at Buffalo, AAA for the Indians. They once again are the Seattle Mariners of the International League. The Buffalo Bisons, loaded with the big league experience. They're playing .750 baseball. That's one thing Cleveland seems to have, a never-ending supply, kind of a bottomless bowl of replacements that they can bring up if somebody gets hurt. Cincinnati, the other Ohio team, they've been exposed as a mid-market team that just can't go that deep.
Can't go that deep, and you can't lose Griffey Jr. Good pitch again by Baldwin, up in the zone.
Weren't we saying something about him not striking out anybody? That's 2 in a row. It's still 5-1. Thursday Night Baseball on Fox Family, brought to you by Acura and by Dremel, tools for the imagination. Imagine yourself on the tippy top of the Ferris wheel at Navy Pier, downtown Chicago. Don't know if David Wells would want to be in the very top row, tipping the scales at around 2.
Well, not in his younger days. You know, he pitched for Cincinnati, and he was a lot thinner. But, you know, he's still an effective pitcher. He won 20 games last year. Good to see him come back and pitch a couple of nights ago. Threw a shutout after having back spasms last Friday night.
David Wells endearing himself to the Chicago media, telling one reporter, hey, I'm fat. You're ugly. He said, I can diet.
I'll tell you what, and he can still pitch with that good fastball, great overhand curveball, Josh. He's got that great changeup, and he throws strikes.
The clean-shaven.
Who is that?
That is Boomer.
1995.
Now Jim Brower just into the game, greeted rudely Joe Creedy bangs a base hit off the new Cincinnati Reds pitcher, and there is a new Cincinnati Reds pitcher because Osvaldo Fernandez allowed a couple home runs, 5 runs total in 3 innings work.
Yeah, Jim Brower, this is his 15th game. He's got a pretty good 2-seam fastball, the sinker. He's got the 4-seam, which is the power fastball, overhand curveball, and a changeup. And right away, the Sox get right on it again. The runner at first base.
Now Royce Clayton. He takes a strike, which is better than taking abuse. And he's been getting a lot of that here in Chicago. There are the numbers on Jim Brower.
4.5 earned run average, 272 opponent's batting average. That's a little bit high. But the potential is there. He's been around. Pretty good curveball.
Clayton sending that one towards right center. And the batting average remains in the 140s. But boy, considering that Clayton was right at the 100 mark just a few weeks ago, and he feels like he's making some strides. And he'll have a chance, Kevin, to keep making them too, because Jose Valentin is on the DL.
Yeah, I talked to Jose before the ball game. He's another 10 days away, I believe. And he has really been a force. You know, he's one of the guys that in Toronto, he jumped the ball club. He said, we were playing in Toronto. I asked him what the turnaround was the last 3.5 weeks. He said, I finally spoke up. I said something. I got mad. You know, we were on a winning ball club.
Pitch gets away as the runner was in motion. Joe Creedy was scampering down to second, and LaRue, maybe out of his crouch a shade early, was not able to come up with the baseball.
So Creedy running on Brower right there. Take a look. Pretty good leg kick. He's looking back just to see if the hitter makes contact. Not a straight steal. No fake bunt, and that was just a slider down and away in the dirt. Wild pitch. And what happened with LaRue, he saw the runner going, so he didn't get down and block it. He thought maybe I can backhand it and throw the runner out. That's why he let that ball get to the backstop.
We're being told, Kevin, they're actually going to credit Creedy with a stolen base on that one.
Yeah, because he was moving on the pitch. That's exactly right. That's the right call. And LaRue, the only reason he did not block that is because he knew the runner was going and he was hoping to make a play on him.
There's a strike to Josh Paul.
But getting back to Jose Valentin, Josh, he's one of the guys that came out and stood up in the clubhouse. You know, they don't have Frank Thomas around. He said, hey, you guys are coming not to win anymore. You got nobody cares. And he jumped the club, and he told me, he said, not one player came up and said you were wrong. He said all of a sudden quietly we all got there early and started playing well together again.
Oh, it's funny, on the north side, the watershed moment was the burning bat, Julio Zuleta, literally lighting the fire
with the fruit.
Yeah. And here it was a little more one-on-one, I guess, a little more normal.
Well, the good thing about it, with Jerry Manuel telling me that with Frank Thomas gone, he said, you know, we had to have some young guys step up that have never spoke out before, Valentin being one of them. He said even Carlos Lee, Ordonez, they started speaking up, not just with their play on the field, but in the clubhouse. He said, we've never had that before. He said, so he took this negative, losing Frank Thomas, and they turned it into a positive. And you see what happened the first 43 games, 15 under versus the last 18 games. Team batting averages up almost 40 points. Runs per game almost a half a run. Earned run average cut in half. I mean, that's a great turnaround in a short period of time.
And you saw David Wells a moment ago. Yeah, he's been a part of that, but more than anything, the young gunslingers.
That's right.
Burley and Kip Wells, Rocky Biddle, John Garland. Those 4 guys, their last 12 starts combined, Kevin, their ERA is 1.2.
Well, they had good pitching last year. You know, Parquet is done. He did a great job a year ago for the White Sox. Baldwin, we know, has not been really 100%. Those were their top 2 guys. And somebody's misfortune gives a young guy a chance to go in there and prove himself. And that's what's happened with this ball club.
Brower's 2-2. And Josh Paul stays in there. Kip Wells will go this weekend as the White Sox play the St. Louis Cardinals. That will be followed by David Wells, no relation. And here's see Mark Burley, who's been unbelievable. 4-0, 0.75 in his last 5.
Well, they finally got a run off him. He had 24+ scoreless innings going.
Ball gets away from LaRue, but there's the out. A 9-pitch at bat. 2 down, and we remind you this week, Fox Saturday Baseball presented by Radio Shack, continued interleague play. Derek Jeter and the Yankees taking on Mike Piazza and the Mets, or, as we mentioned, the White Sox with Kip Wells against the Cardinals. Then Jason Giambi and the A's get together with Barry Bonds and the Giants, or you got the Rangers and the Astros. Coverage beginning at 1 Eastern and Pacific on Fox. Watch the entire baseball season unfold across the Fox networks.
Yeah, there are actually some pretty good matchups. That White Sox-St. Louis game, you've got Albert Pujols over there, a great story. It's really picked up for Mark McGwire, 21-year-old that should make the All-Star team hands down. Top 3 or 4 in all major categories in St. Louis.
And how about that Bonds-Giambi showdown too? Battle of the MVPs in the Battle of the Bay.
You're not kidding.
Off-speed Durham out in front.
What Bonds has done is just unbelievable to me, and every time I see him hit a home run, somebody's throwing a ball up and in on him, and he keeps turning it around, and I'm waiting for somebody to pitch him down and away. I noticed the game last night. Finally, he chased some balls out of the zone down and away.
1-2 the count to Durham. Barry Bonds is now on a pace for 82 home runs as his team is on a pace for 81 wins.
That's unbelievable. We're going to see these guys on Fox Saturday, obviously, with the Oakland Giants game, St. Louis White Sox.
Durham sending that one to center. The wind knocks it down. Rivera marching in to take care of it. The White Sox do not score, but at the end of 4 they lead it. Our score 5-1. Chicago. Interleague baseball on Fox Family. Thursday night baseball. Bob Boone watching on, and his Reds being shackled so far. James Baldwin with a 3-hitter through 4 innings. LaRue bouncing one into left, and that's how things get going in the 5th inning. LaRue 2 for 2, and the Reds needing to keep things going despite this tremendous disabled list that they've had to try and get through this year. We talked to Bob Boone about how he's been getting through it all.
It's really been frustrating. It's been tough and no fun. We haven't had much fun at it. But it's something that you have to go through, and you know, you get if anything, you get tired of saying, well, look, we're hurt, we're banged up. That doesn't matter because we couldn't get Bud Selig to stop the schedule while we got healthy.
I love that line. That's a great line right there. That's what you feel like when you're struggling like that and you lose Griffey and Larkin. You say, can you put us on hold for about 3 weeks? We'll get some guys back, then we'll resume our schedule.
No timeouts, no mulligans. Just a voluminous disabled list, which we'll show you in a moment.
But the thing is, everybody goes through injuries, so, and Bob Boone knows that, and he's not making excuses. Every club goes through it, but this club has really gone through it with some key guys. Junior leading the pack right there. Their shortstop, Aaron Boone, his own son, starting pitching. Williamson, Dennis Reyes, a lefty out of their pen. It's just been on and on and on, but you're missing several key pitchers right there. You're not going to win.
Now here's Baldwin, 3-0 to Deion Sanders, who is DHing tonight. American League rules, American League ballpark. And he walks. 2 on, nobody out. Now the Reds are 13 games under 500, but consider just in Larkin and Griffey how much pop they're really without.
That's a ton of offensive production. 618 home runs, almost 4,000 hits in their careers combined. 2,000 runs driven in.
They're the 2 local products too, the 2 natives of Cincinnati. to try and rally the ticket sales, if nothing else.
Yeah, you don't plan on that when you get a managing job. You say, well, I got Griffey, Larkin, I got a good ball club, Sean Casey, and you lose 2 guys like that, especially Griffey. He never was right, and probably in hindsight they probably should have put him on the DL from day one. I mean, you can't hit if you don't have your legs, and the hamstring bothered him even while he was active and pinch hitting, and I think that was a mistake that they made.
Pokey Reese drifting this one out of play, and I guess from the files, Kevin, if you know it's a strange season when ... when McGuire and Griffey have combined for 2 home runs, and Mike Hampton, pitcher for the Colorado Rockies, has 5.
That is absolutely true. 2 of the best players in the game, McGuire and Griffey, have been pretty much out most of the year. Although McGuire's back now, you know, he's starting to hit some home runs again, which is good news, especially for Fox Saturday. Big Mac in that lineup. But you're absolutely right. Mike Hampton goes to Colorado. Number one, people say, why is he going to Colorado? Nobody wins there. Nobody can pitch there. Well, he's a sinker ball pitcher, so that's a good move. Number two, if you know Mike Hampton, he loves to hit. He's the best hitting pitcher in baseball.
Apparently.
Well, he's a .240 career hitter coming into this season. He can run. He's a 3.9 runner down the line. A guy was recruited as a defensive back in some major colleges out of high school. He's a great athlete. So you knew Mike wanted to go to a place where he could also swing the bat. And here's a guy that needs to start picking it up right now with the bat, Pokey Reese.
Swinging on 3-1. He pops it foul as the Reds look to get back in it here. Well, they're in business. If they can get Pokey Reese on base, it'll roll over to the top of the order. He'll have the tying man coming up.
Yeah, he's just got too much ability to be hitting .233 coming into this ball game. Pokey Reese, this guy, I mean, here's a guy that Jim Bowden would not trade a couple of winters ago for Ken Griffey Jr. He was a no-trade guy. That's the guy that Pat Gillick wanted, was Pokey Reese right here. That tells you what Jim Bowden thinks of Pokey Reese, and I tell you, he's an outstanding defensive player, but he should be a much better offensive player at this point in his career.
Rip and a miss. He's down on strikes. And a 5 out of 41 road trip for Pokey Reese.
And that's the frustration you saw in Bob Boone's face. That ball's right down the middle. He just pulled off the baseball. I mean, you got to go right back at this baseball. And he pulled off it right there. Look where his head goes at the end, toward third base. Watch his head. It's gone. The head is gone. Let's take a look. 88 miles an hour. I mean, that's right, as I said, right down the middle. And he pulled off that baseball. He's trying to go yard right there. And he knows it.
So now 2 on 1 out for Alex Ochoa. We talked about James Baldwin having struck out only 13 all season coming in. He's actually struck out 3 of the last 5 batters now tonight.
Well, it's a good sign when he comes back getting down in the count to Pokey Reese like that and just says, hey, hit this fastball 3-2. And he strikes him out. That shows confidence in his stuff, that he's feeling pretty good.
And in the words of his manager before the game, Jerry Manuel telling you, Nardi Contreras pointing it out as well, this is a pivotal start.
Yeah, Jerry Manuel really said, he said to Kevin, to me it's critical tonight. I mean, we really need this guy to step up right now and get back to form. And right now he's going after it. Now it's only 87, but I had a little tailing action right there.
In what a lot of people figure really is kind of a pivotal inning, that 5th inning, midpoint of the game. Need this inning if you want to get credit for the win.
And he's not out of the woods yet. He's got a couple of men on, but he's got the count in his favor right here. It's a big pitch to a good hitter.
Towards second, Ray Durham gobbles it up. Lobs across his body for the out. The runners scoot ahead to second and third.
That was a nice last pitch right there to Ochoa. That was a jam shot by Baldwin up and in, and finished a 300 hitter off right there. That's a big out. Breaking ball down and away. Fastball off the outside corner. Fastball right at you, then fastball in. Good sequence. Nice range from Durham on the run, and gets the easy out. Good sequence from Baldwin. Now, Josh Paul went out there. Got runners at second and third. You got a left-hand hitter up here in Tucker. You got Casey on deck. Well, Tucker's the guy you want to get. You don't want to be fooling around here. So Paul went out there, just a little chat with Baldwin. Tucker also has some power on that fastball down and in. So You want to keep him in the big part of the ballpark by pitching him away.
Strike one in there. A dissenting opinion from Michael Tucker.
Well, that's the high strike again. That was a good pitch. Gibson has already established that he's going to call that pitch tonight behind the plate. So there should be no argument on that pitch. In fact, that was a very hittable pitch.
Now it's 0-2. Started him with an 80-mile-an-hour pitch and jacked it up to 89.
Right, a little changeup on the first one, fooled Tucker, 80 miles an hour. Then he goes up 9 miles with the fastball, the high fastball. Good target by Paul. Says, I want this ball up, and that's exactly where he got it. Good execution by Baldwin. But the catcher, Josh Paul, helped him there. He noticed his glove. He flipped it up a little bit higher. Just reminding the pitcher, hey, we want this ball up above his hands. He's a good low ball hitter, as I said. Not a good high ball hitter.
James Baldwin 11-4 at the break last year, just 2-4 right now here in 2001. Trying to get out of this inning. Remember, it was 2 on, nobody out, but he blew one behind Paulie Reese, got Ochoa on a bounce out. Now he's up 2 strikes on Tucker.
Yeah, he went right back at him again. Paulie Reese still mad at himself. The Reds had an inning going here, first and second. He knows he pulled off it, and that's what he's doing right there. Said, I got to stay on that ball, keep my hands inside it, go right back to the middle. He didn't do it.
Check swing, no sale.
Yeah, you notice the velocity, Josh, 91 miles an hour. That's a great sign right there. That's the hardest pitch he's thrown all night. That's James Baldwin's four-seam fastball when he's on, 91 to 93. And we're in the middle of the ball game. That's a very good sign for James Baldwin, that he can throw that hard at this point in the ball game.
Tucker sweeping it slowly. Durham's got a hustle. Flips it over there. Got him. And the fans are clapping too. James Baldwin leads it 5-1 halfway through. White Sox 5 and the Reds 1. The Cincinnati Reds looked like they had a chance to rally in the top of the 5th inning. Jerry Manuel, Nardi Contreras had to be awfully pleased to see James Baldwin work his way out of a tight spot.
Well, I just sensed Jerry's concern before the game that, hey, he really wanted this guy to have a good performance, and he should be smiling. That was the best sequence of the night to get that final out on Michael Tucker with a good curveball and get out of what could have been a big inning for the Reds.
Singleton, then Carlos Lee and Maglio Ordonez in the Chicago 5th. And a bouncing ball to second. Selby will take care of it, and Carlos Lee coming up. And Kevin, right now the difference in the game, even if you didn't major in math, that would be the Konerko grand slam in the 1st inning.
Well, we did. We talked about that earlier, the lack of run support for Baldwin. He got 4 runs on the board early, and he's been able to get through 5 innings, only giving up 1 himself. Pretty good curveball right there by Brower. Carlos Lee's another guy that's always been a good hitter from his minor league days in Chicago all the way up to the big leagues. That's why he's hitting 3rd.
Drives it into left center. And this is going to die right near the warning track. Carlos Lee with a couple of long fly ball outs tonight. Maglio Ordonez coming up next. Now, folks, John Larroquette is a father who wants to make one little change before his daughter's wedding. That would be a new groom. Till Dad Do Us Part, a Fox Family original Father's Day movie, Sunday at 8, 7 Central. And a strike to Maglio Ordonez.
Seems appropriate, doesn't it? Father's Day is this weekend, Sunday.
Yeah, that's called good programming right there. Maglio, by the way, has a couple of children named Maglio and Magliana.
What's his wife's name?
Dagley, I believe, but they haven't started naming children after her yet. Well, Bob Boone keeping it in the family. And he's got a dad who played, and he is a dad who played in the big leagues. On appeal, no swing. Bob Boone is the son of Ray Boone, and Bob Boone is the dad of Brett Boone and Aaron Boone. Not to mention Matt Boone, who is an up-and-coming prospect himself. Brett Boone is stealing all the headlines.
Uh-oh. He's on his way to well over 100 this year. Brett Boone. Say, Dad, I'm just a much better hitter than you were.
Ordonez down on strikes. It stays 5-1. We're through 5 at Comiskey on Fox Family. A year of adjustments for a lot of hitters. What with the new strike zone and all. Sean Casey's handling it, though, hitting in the 330 range. We talked to him before the game.
I'd say, yeah, there's definitely been a difference. With certain umpires, I think, more have brought it up a little bit. But it's been good. I mean, it hasn't changed that much, but there's definitely been a higher strike, especially on the curveballs that are up a little bit. They're calling more of those.
Well, he's absolutely right. The hitters I've talked to say the same thing. It's been mostly on the high curveball. Baldwin has a high curveball, so we'll see how this sequence goes in this at bat. Absolutely right. And we've seen tonight a couple of high fastballs called by Greg Gibson behind the plate that maybe weren't strikes a year ago.
On the ground and into right field, Sean Casey is now hit safely in 27 of his last 30 games. And it's unconventional up there, I guess, Kevin. Not your run-of-the-mill batting stance, but it works for him. He's hitting 330.
No, I really like these guys with the open stance, because what it does, it allows you to stride toward the pitcher as opposed to across your body. When you stride across your body with a closed stance, you tend to block your hips off and you can't hit the inside pitch. So a lot of guys, Galarraga has gone to that with the help of Don Baylor, Sean Casey, Luis Gonzalez in Arizona made a dramatic change from his Detroit days.
Ground ball into right, base hit for Dimitri Young. So once again, the Reds will open an inning with 2 on and nobody out.
You know, talking about guys with those open stances, if you had a closed stance and you naturally bailed or opened up, that's different. Then you don't open up your stance to start with. But if you're a guy that strides across your body anyway, you make the adjustment by opening up, and then your stride goes right toward your pitcher and you can hit both sides of the plate.
And as Nardi Contreras comes out, Sean Casey, you saw it a moment ago, is nicknamed the Mayor because he is so friendly. He's got a new couple guys to chat it up with out there now at second base. Didn't have a lot of time to chat up Konerko at first.
Well, let's get right back to Casey now. That's from the side. There's this great balance right there with that open stance, and we didn't see it on that shot. What we saw was just great balance. He kept his head back a lot like we showed you with Ordonez earlier. And Nardi Contreras out there. Jerry Manuel is a guy that will not go that long with his starters. He loves his bullpen. As a matter of fact, I thought sometimes last year Nardi and Jerry tended to use maybe that bullpen a little bit too much and kind of wore him out at the end of the year. But it did help win him a division. But by playoff time, they were out of gas, some of those guys.
Now the bullpen gets to work right now behind James Baldwin. 2 on, nobody out. Ruben Rivera takes high for ball 1.
Now, here's that open stand. Here's what I'm talking about. Now, let it roll. Watch the stride. Now, watch him go right toward the pitcher right here. Boom. See it? 50-50. Balance. Right toward the pitcher. You can hit the inside pitch.
Into left, and Ruben Rivera keeps it coming. Sean Casey's being waved in. Coming to the plate, and he will score. The Reds are back to within 5-2.
Well,
and still nobody out in the inning here.
You're right, Josh. Rivera hit the inside pitch right there. And I think what happened last inning with Baldwin, we saw him get the velocity to 91 miles an hour. He had not done that all night long. I think he used everything he could last inning to get through that 5th inning. I really do, especially that last sequence to Michael Tucker. And Nardi Contreras is on the phone. They've got the bullpen ready. They're not going to let Baldwin lose his ball game. I'll guarantee you that. Maybe one more hitter, and that's it. But he's done a pretty good job. But I really believe last inning, you saw him really pump it up, turn it up a notch as far as velocity. It never hit 90 all night until last inning, and now he may be out of gas.
That one falls outside to Selby. Lefty and a righty in the bullpen with Kelly Wunsch and Sean Lowe. They've been up for a couple minutes, so things don't work out here with Selby, we might see one of those guys quickly.
And you've got LaRue, a right-hander on deck, followed by Deion Sanders, a left-hander. As I said, Manuel doesn't just get one guy up. He likes to use that bullpen. Therefore, you're seeing the lefty-righty mix and match. That's what Jerry Manuel loves to do. And I respect his opinion. That's how he likes to run a game. I just think in the big leagues, when you use the bullpen that much as he did a year ago, by the end of the year, some of your guys are out of gas. And it's not the times that you bring them in. It's the times you get them up like that, and one of them sits back down. One will come in, obviously, and one's going to sit back down. And then you may get him up 2 or 3 times in a ball game and not use him. And that's what wears guys down.
And Baldwin, who was used in relief himself last time out, giving the Sox 3 in the 3rd out of the pen against the Cubs. Now he's trying to keep the bullpen dormant. Gets away from Paul, though, and that's not going to help. Runners at 2nd and 3rd now, and nobody out. Some of the fans moaning and or hooting now in the general direction of James Baldwin.
Yeah, I'm quite certain this would be his last hitter. And he's got nobody out right now. Let's take a look at Josh Paul. Now he gets down. It just, you know what, he didn't get down with the right arm. Watch the right arm right here stay behind. He got down with one hand, and what happens is your right shoulder stays open. You've got to cup it with both arms and surround the baseball, form a cup with the upper part of your body to keep the ball in front.
3-2 now, the count to Selby.
And here's the ball in the dirt real quick. Watch Josh Paul. Now he gets down, but watch the right arm. See, you got to close up right there with the right arm.
Baldwin deflecting this one to Durham. And Selby is out, but a run comes in. And Baldwin reaching out for it, and he tipped it to his buddy Ray Durham. There's now a runner at 3rd, 1 out. 5-3 game.
Let's take a look. Bill Selby, he gets a curveball backdoor right off the end of the glove. Caroms right to Ray Durham. Selby, not a fast runner. He gets him by 1 stride. Now, with the right-handed hitter and getting the out right there, Jerry Manuel says, all right, I'm going to let you go another hitter.
But a fly ball of any depth here from LaRue cuts this thing right down to a 1-run game.
Yeah, his arm dropped down right there. He's definitely tired. He's only got 77 pitches, 52 per strikes. That's a great ratio. Anything over 63% is very good. He's throwing strikes, but he's dropping down a little bit, opening up the front side a little too soon. I think he's getting tired.
He evens the count here, 1-1 to LaRue, who is 2 for 2 so far tonight.
James Baldwin from the stretch right there. Decent stride. He stepped a little bit across his body there, but it's not terrible. You should open up that front foot going right toward your target. And when you step a hair across your body, it tends to put pressure on the elbow and shoulder.
Rip and a miss. It's 1-2. Now Baldwin, remember, hasn't won for a month and a day. Got to go back to the 13th of May.
Well, they've got 2 ways they can go 1 and 2. If he throws a good curveball down in the dirt, he'll strike him out. He goes fastball up above his hands, he can strike him out.
Ground ball to short. Clayton's play is to first. And that's going to knock in another Cincinnati run. It's a 3-run inning. And here they come. It's 5-4.
Yeah, we got a ball game, and that wasn't a great pitch. That wasn't a 1-2 put-away pitch. That was a fastball he left right over the heart of the plate and very hittable. And what he wanted to do was go up and in on LaRue above his hands to try to strike it. And he made a mistake. The ball ran out over the heart of the plate. With the infield back, he was able to put it in play. Watch, they want to go above his hands right here, but he leaves it over the heart of the plate.
Deion Sanders rips into this one, sails it to right. That'll be grabbed by Ordonez, and finally the inning ends. But 3 on the board for the Reds. As Kevin said, it's a ball game now. 5-4 Chicago. 5 and the Reds 4. Paul Konerko got 4 all by himself. He's also played some defense in this one, helping to turn a double play in the top of the first inning. A neat little 3-6-3. And then the bat, bottom of the first, opposite field grand slam off Osvaldo Fernandez. And wait, there's more. Konerko, Paul Konerko, a double in the third inning. So it's a pretty good all-around game. And he does lead off now, bottom of the 6th inning.
Well, the momentum is now shifted to Cincinnati. They were in the ball game. It's a one-run ball game. So what has to happen here in the bottom of the inning, you like to get at least 1, maybe 2 of those runs back right away and get the momentum back on your side.
Well, the Reds bullpen has been nothing if not stingy. Jim Brower's come on, done a nice job. You know, the Cincinnati bullpen's allowed only 1 home run in their last 45 innings of work. That's been their strength. They were in the top of Major League Baseball a year ago, and they've been very good this year, right at the top of the National League. Mostly second team ERA out of the bullpen all season long. So that's been a strength for the Reds, led by their closer Danny Graves. Check swing called strike, 1-2. White Sox 5 runs, 6 hits. The Reds have 4 runs on 7.
And in one-run ball games, both ball clubs are playing .500 baseball. The Cincinnati Reds are 9-9 in one-run games. The White Sox are 8-8.
Two and 2 the count to Konerko. And he foul tips it back into the glove of Jason LaRue.
Well, Brower's got pretty good stuff going. Got that good 2-seamer, a 4-seamer, the overhand curveball. Trying to keep the White Sox at bay. That's just a power fastball right there, up onto the hands. Good pitch, 92 miles an hour. That's an outstanding pitch. Great location, great 2-strike pitch.
Pitch tracks brought to you by Questec. And Harold Baines ahead in the count, 1-0. Harold Baines now 42 years old. Trying to get to 3,000 hits. Boy, they're coming with a trickle.
Yep.
Just as a DH. He's got 1688, but you can pile it up from there to around 2850. There's another. Only his 11th hit this year.
No, as good as that swing looked, Josh, you wouldn't believe he's hitting a .122 right now. That was a nice piece of hit, and fastball away, head down on the baseball, shoots it into left field. Take a look right here, keeps the hands back, head concentrating on the baseball. Great inside the baseball. Goes with it. Great finish, great follow through.
Hit number 2866 in the storied career of Harold Baines. You know, Harold Baines, Kevin, no 30 home run seasons, but he's got more career home runs than Johnny Mize, more than Joe DiMaggio. He's had only 200 RBI seasons, but he's got more career than Eddie Matthews, more than Mickey Mantle.
Well, he's an interesting story because there's a lot of media people that say there's no way Baines should ever be in the Hall of Fame, and others will say, you know what, he's going to have Hall of Fame numbers before he's done, especially if he gets to 3,000 hits.
His number was retired and was among the greats here. That's not Steve Seiko Lions, by the way.
I was going to say, Steve get his number up there?
No.
For pulling his pants down?
This ball flared into the crowd by Creedy, but you know, the city of Chicago has seen 2 of its athletes have their numbers raised to the proverbial rafters, only to have them brought back down and put back on. Michael Jordan recycled 23 for the Bulls, and Baines has done it with number 3 here at Comiskey. 1-2 is off the glove of LaRue and back to the screen. That's going to be, well, whether it's a wild pitch or a pass ball, it's trouble. And the Reds set a major league record last year with close to 100 wild pitches allowed.
Let's take a look at Jim Brower right here to Jason LaRue. Jason sitting down and away. That ball's a curveball up, and I think I think that Jason LaRue got crossed up. I think he was looking fastball. Or was expecting it to break a lot better like that. And just anticipated it being down in the dirt like that pitch. And the thing just hung up there. And went off the tip of his glove. That should actually be a pass ball.
They have not announced anything yet.
That's a catchable ball. It should be a pass ball. And Bob Boone will tell you that. One of the best receivers ever. So smooth behind the plate.
They have just now called it in, a pass ball. You're right. Creedy couldn't get it. Brower strikes him out. So the Baines single wedged in between a Konerko strikeout and a Creedy strikeout. 2 down in the inning.
Going to be a good time for Royce Clayton to get hot, get one of those runs back that the Sox gave up in the top half of this inning. Only hitting 142. Texas Rangers actually did Royce Clayton a favor when they signed Alex Rodriguez last winter. Doug Melvin said, hey, I'll do everything in my power to trade you to a ball club where you can play. Because Royce actually had a pretty decent year for the Rangers a year ago. Royce got traded over here, says, hey, I'm going to a first place ball club. Hasn't quite worked out that way yet.
It would be stunning, but the White Sox are making noises even without their superstar Frank Thomas, like they just might at least wander towards the impossible. They started 14-29 and they have gone 15-3 since then.
Well, and they'll have 100 ball games left after tonight, so there's a lot of time left. But like I said earlier, you've got to start winning series and once in a while sweeping a series to get back in the race.
This ball swept towards Dimitri Young. He stabs it, guns it across, and Young, who has not played a lot of third base, played that one very well. We're at the end of 6. 5-4 Chicago. Thursday Night Baseball on Fox Family, brought to you by Mitsubishi Motors. Wake up and drive. And by Fram. Pay a little now or pay a lot later. In Chicago, a very hot, very humid evening here. The White Sox lead the Reds 5-4. And a brand new pitcher to tell you about as James Baldwin gets out of the game and Sean Lowe comes on.
He's pitched very, very well. Sean will keep the ball down with his 2-seamer. He's got a good overhand curveball, mixes in a changeup. Good numbers. This is his 17th ball game. Low earned run average, 2.22. And opponent's batting average, 225. That's very, very good. Now, this is the right move for Jerry Manuel. Baldwin was clearly tired last inning. He let him finish the inning off as long as another guy didn't get on. He takes him out of there with a 1-run lead. Goes to his bullpen, as Jerry Manuel loves to do, and you're going to see the final 9 outs here. He's going to mix and match. He's going to keep that bullpen ready. He's going to keep Kelly Wunsch ready, that lefty down there in the bullpen. And then later in the ball game, if it gets to a closed situation, you're going to see Keith Folt come in the ball game. So this is where Jerry likes to really mix and match in the bullpen, according to what Bob Boone does off the bench with some of his guys. And this is really, I think, where you earn your money as a manager, managing 1-run games and winning them. Putting your men in a situation for success and forcing the other manager to make moves against you. And managers that don't do that, they don't deserve to be in that dugout. You've got to force the opposition to make a move.
Pokey Reese ripping one into center field. The tying man is on. And Pokey Reese, who, keep in mind, has stolen 10 bases.
Okay, so what's going to happen? He's going to face one more hitter. Then you're going to see Kelly Wunsch in this ball game to face Michael Tucker. He's going to force Bob Boone to pinch hit the man that's on deck. So this will probably be Sean Lowe's last hitter, because you got Casey coming up in the 3 spot also. And it's a good situation. You got a 300 hitter up here, and Pokey Reese, he can fly. He can steal bases. So they got to watch that also. Pretty good lead right there.
And Lowe, a guy who is known for a tremendous move. He picked off half a dozen runners a couple of years ago. Got Mark Grace in the 9th inning of one of those raucous Cubs White Sox games at Comiskey. Close play.
Well, that's a quick move over there, and I'll tell you what, you got to show distance as a pitcher and direction, and Sean Lowe barely made a step toward first base. And they're taking, but watch the pitcher right here. Now you got to show distance and direction from the mound. In other words, you got to get off the mound with your right foot, and you got to show distance with your left foot. Watch this. After this pitch, we're going to show you. We're going to show you what we're talking about. And that's why there was a claim by Paulie Reese that was a balk. Watch the left foot. Now here's the right foot. You got to show. You got to disengage yourself from the rubber of the right foot. Then you got to show direction with the left foot. Let's take a look. Barely. I mean, you've really got to make a stride. You can't just pick it up and set it down or spin.
There goes Paulie. Pitches a strike. The throw down. Too late. Stolen base number 11 for Paulie Reese. The Reds have the tying man at second base. Nobody out, 7th inning.
Well, you talked about Paulie Reese. He can fly. He had a great lead over there. Watch him. Crossover step, big leg kick. He's gone. Straight steal, head down, going for the bag. No chance for Josh Paul. That was off of Sean Lowe. And it's on a curveball, about 77 miles an hour, too. So it's a slower pitch, which also gives the runner more time to steal.
Inside.
Yeah, curveball again, 75 miles an hour. So it was a great pitch to run on for Paulie Reese. And of course, you can't just throw fastballs to Ochoa because he'll take you out of the ballpark. Almost got hit on this curveball. Backed up.
2-1, the count to Ochoa. Make it 2-2.
Pretty good two-seam fastball right there. That had good movement that ran in off the inside corner and tied Ochoa up. Couldn't get extended. Big pitch right here. Big out of the ball game.
Count runs full, though. The Cincinnati Reds, who are 13 under, and trying to shake off that miserable May in which they went 6-22. This would be a pretty nice statement tonight if they can come all the way back on the surging Chicago White Sox. A little bloop. And Ordonez, who started back, now coming in. He's got it.
That is a huge out in the ball game right now because you got Michael Tucker coming up, and then you've got the best Cincinnati hitter, Sean Casey, in the hole. That's a huge out right there. Huge out. Great movement on the pitch to jam Ochoa, and Jerry's going to his lefty right now. Kelly Wunsch.
So the single, the stolen base, but then the fly ball out. It stays 5-4 for now. We'll be back in a moment. Well, Sean Lowe allowed a single and a stolen base, but then made a big pitch on Alex Ochoa to keep it a runner at second, and now one out. The White Sox go with the lefty, Kelly Wunsch.
Well, this is Jerry Manuel's main lefty, late inning lefty, situational guy because he drops down almost underhand, submarine style. He's had a tough year, almost a 7 earned run average this year. A year ago, this guy was outstanding out of the pen. Earned run average was 2.93. Last year, he was in 83 ball games. Every other day, this guy was in a ball game. This year, same thing. He's already been in 30 ball games. He gets up a lot, and maybe it's taken his toll after a long year last year because the earned run average is up. But I tell you what, you got a situation, you got to use him. You got to force Bob Boone to make a change, and that's exactly what Jerry Manuel did. It's the right move. Make Bob Boone make a decision, and he did. He took Michael Tucker out.
He's going to insert Brady Clark, who pegged a home run leading off the ball game yesterday. Just up from AAA recently. And the Reds do have a lot of pretty good outfield prospects. Brady Clark, not a youngster anymore, but he is one of them. I'll tell you what, at AAA, you don't see a lot of sidearm drop-down action like you do from Kelly Wunsch.
No, there's not too many guys that do it, and I haven't seen too many lefties over the years that do it. As you know, a kid with Detroit, Myers, used to throws that way down there, sidearm, almost submarine a few years ago. But not too many lefties drop down like that.
That one swings in for a strike, 1-1.
I mean, as a right-hander, normally you're going to see the ball better. At lefties, it's identical this year for him, but normally he really gets the lefties out a lot better. But that's identical this year, opposing lefties and righties.
Rip and a miss, 1-2 as Reese was really pacing that lead away from second. He's ready to run around, try to come in, tie the game on a base hit.
77, 78 miles an hour, a lot of arms, a lot of legs, long limbs from this guy, and he hides the ball pretty well, and you just don't pick up the ball on him. And right behind second base, they are holding Pokey Reese close. Ray Durham, I mean, right there, look at him. And because on a lefty, it's a lot easier to steal off. You don't want him falling asleep out there on the mound, saying, "Oh, they're not going to steal in this situation," and having him walk into third base with 1 out still. So Ray Durham is right behind second base, holding Pokey Reese right there. Big hole on the right side of the infield, but he'll move back toward his normal position as the ball's on the way. Ray Durham will.
On 2-2, Reese on the move, and Josh Paul fires down to third, not in time. Pokey Reese has stolen second and third, and now the count 3-2 on Clark. A fly ball of any depth now ties the game.
And that's exactly why Ray Durham was trying to hold him on right there, but again, it's much easier to steal third off a lefty. Basically has your back to the play. Watch, one look and he goes home, and that's what Pokey Reese went on. A nice throw by Josh Paul, but Pokey Reese got a great jump. Ray Durham goes back to his position. He stole that one on Kelly Wunsch. Take a look at the picture. I want to show the head.
Infield comes in for the White Sox now, hoping for a hard ground ball. They get a fly ball instead. Singleton will line it up, but Pokey Reese is coming home. And the Reds have rallied to tie this game. The speed of Pokey Reese with the steal of second, the steal of third. And Clark brings him in.
Let's show the steal again. I'm freezing on Kelly Wunsch's head looking back, and then I want to show how right away he left it home and didn't go home. That's the old one look and go home, and guys time it off.
All the offense for the White Sox pretty much in that first inning. The Konerko grand slam. Since then, it's been Cincinnati.
Well, Cincinnati's #2 in the league in stolen bases, and they got the right guy. Watch him look home, and watch him look at second. Watch the head here, and then look home right away. See what happens. One look and he goes home. One look and he goes home. That's a timing that a runner at second does off a lefty in particular. Instead of looking back twice at second base and bury it 3 times, he kind of forgot about him, as we talked about, and Pokey Reese stole that one off of Kelly Wunsch. And you can't just look once to second, then go home. You got to vary it. One time you look a couple of times, then go home. Or you look 3 times. But he got in a pattern right there, and Reese stole the base off of Wunsch.
Now 2-0 to Sean Casey. It'll be a no decision for James Baldwin, who, remember, at this time last year was up around 11 wins. On the verge of going from 10 to 11 this week last year. He will hold at 2 because of what's happened now tonight.
Well, I was a little surprised after that 5th inning. We talked about it, Josh, with Baldwin. He really got his velocity up there to 91 miles an hour, and he got tired in the 5th. And you can see why Kelly Wunsch is in this ball game with Sean Casey up here hitting 380 on the road. That's why Wunsch is in the ball game. But I thought in the 5th inning Baldwin was out of gas. He went back out in the 6th, and Jerry Manuel let him go the whole inning, and he gave up 3 runs.
And Sean Casey, road warrior. The NL leaders brought to you by Toyota. Drills it up the middle. A base hit for Sean Casey. Reminiscent of the one that Wunsch took off his body in the deciding game against the Mariners in the playoffs last year. Right back at him.
Well, when you're hitting 335, lefties don't bother you. He's the type of hitter that goes up the middle the other way. That's why he hits what he does. So Kelly Wunsch with the curveball stayed inside. Another sweeping breaking ball there. Fastball inside corner. One off the inside corner again. Then one right over the heart of the plate. And Sean Casey just didn't flinch. Stayed right there. Great eyesight.
Now Dimitri Young, 2 for 3.
No secret, though, that Kelly Wunsch has not been the guy that he was last year. Current run average already twice what it was a year ago.
Mighty cut, but a foul ball by Young.
And that bullpen for the White Sox is still up.
Kind of a never-ending story once you get into the 6th or 7th.
No, he has his guys going all the time.
Ginter, the latest to start loosening.
That's why when you face this ball club and you know the manager's patterns, you like to have a lot of lefties and a lot of righties in your lineup, Josh.
Clayton skids to a stop and takes care of that, but the damage done. The game is tied. We're at the stretch. We're tied at 5. Chicago. Now, folks, when David Rayburn moved his family to the South, things were never the same. State of Grace is what it's called, a Fox Family original series. It premieres Monday, June 25th at 9 o'clock, 8 Central. Pokey Reese racing around the bases in that top of the 7th inning. And Jim Brower, who has kept the Reds in the ball game, now trying to keep this thing knotted up 5-5.
Well, Jim Brower's done a good job right now. That's what your long man, that's what his job is. When you're down 4 or 5 runs, just don't let the opposition score.
The bunt from the catcher, Josh Paul, the other catcher, LaRue, and what a pick by Casey at first. Couple catchers on display there, one bunting and the other springing into action.
That's twice in this game that we've seen LaRue get out from behind the plate on bunt attempts to throw runners out. This time he bounces it, rushed himself, and a great pick backhanded by Sean Casey. And that is something that first basemen work on in spring training all the time. Balls in the dirt like that. Did a lot of drills with balls in the dirt. That is not by accident. Nice job by LaRue to jump on it. Took him a little bit by surprise. That's why he rushed his throw, but he had a little bit more time than he thought.
Ray Durham takes up and outside, and that's a kind of a strange area too over there at first base where Casey's trying to pick it. This is an unfamiliar dirt for him. It's not like he plays at Comiskey 8 times a year, and that dirt right around that bag really gets carved up by this point in the game.
Well, you're absolutely right, and all fields are different. There's different clay, different dirt in each ballpark, and it's pretty soft out there. You're looking at that right now. It's marked up pretty well, and some ballparks are softer. Fenway used to be absolutely awful. Very tough on the infielders, and some are very, very nice. But those are drills, as I said, Josh, that you work on a lot, especially in spring training. You work on picking balls in the dirt.
2-2 the count to Durham. And he's made a couple nice stops at second base tonight.
Yeah, he has. He's got range both ways. Great range left and right. 91-mile-an-hour fastball. Had a lot of movement off the glove of Jason LaRue. A few times tonight, LaRue's had some problems either picking up the ball or getting crossed up, especially when the guys have had good movement on their pitches. Kind of stabbing at it. Now that one just got away. That's a breaking ball, curveball right there. Just a bad pitch.
1 out walk, and Ray Durham's got some speed. Ray Durham, who has been to the All-Star game before. And of course the All-Star game is not too far away now, about 4 weeks, a little less than that.
Now Cincinnati's going to get their bullpen stirring. They have to. As a matter of fact, you got the skipper out there, so they've had their bullpen up before and ready.
And Jim Brower, who did a nice job for 3 1/3, is now going to give it up to Hector Mercado. He's coming on in a 5-5 game. Hector Mercado comes on now, 5-5 game. The White Sox have a man on. And 1 out on a very warm evening here in Chicago. This copyrighted telecast, by the way, is presented by authority of the Office of the Commissioner of Baseball. May not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without express written consent. Crowd of 18,000 plus at Comiskey tonight, hoping the White Sox can rev it up offensively again. They'll look to do it against the lefty, Hector Mercado, at least for, well, one batter, Kevin.
He's in here as a situational lefty because you've got 3 right-handers coming up behind Chris Singleton. And Bob Boone is doing the same thing Jerry Manuel did. As I said, the last 9 outs in these close ball games, that's when the managers earn their money. It's not about leaving a guy in. It's about mixing and matching, putting the right guy in for success. So Singleton stays in the ball game to face a lefty. Mercado in, and I believe it's Scott Sullivan up in the bullpen for the Cincinnati Reds.
And few any hotter than Singleton. 13-game hitting streak with a base hit tonight. Showing bunt, takes a strike.
Well, this does 2 things also. Tougher to run off the lefty for Ray Durham at first base, and better situation for the lefty facing lefty Chris Singleton. So Bob Boone solves 2 things, bringing the lefty in, trying to keep Ray Durham right there as he's looking for a sign. As he can fly.
Well, remember, the Reds got their run here in the top of the 7th when their speedy middle infielder, Pokey Reese, was able to get on and wheel his way around the bases. So maybe Durham can do the same thing here.
I'm watching him on that last pitch. Durham was fooled. He was going back to the bag as Mercado was delivering home. So he doesn't have his move down yet. I mean, he's really locked in on him. And a lot of times you put a runner like Durham on his own instead of picking a pitch for him. Let him run on his own. Let him figure the pitcher out. That's the best way I feel for a good base stealer. Let him pick his spots, just like Bob Boone did with Pokey Reese. That was all Pokey Reese. That was not a sign from the bench. Now they've got Dimitri Young in on the grass about 10 feet at third base looking bunt.
Contact made, and the count dips to 1-2. So Dimitri Young will now back up at third.
And normally you don't bunt with 1 out in this situation. If you're going to let Chris Singleton hit, let him swing the bat. But Jerry Manuel feels, hey, I don't know that he can hit this particular pitcher, so let's get a man in a scoring position with my number 3 hitter on deck, Carlos Lee. But now you're right. You can't be bunting now. You can't take the bat out of Singleton's hand. You can't do it on the first 2 pitches right here. You got to let him swing the bat.
Takes down and in.
I would rather see in this situation before the first pitch, make Durham be the pressure guy on Mercado rather than giving yourself away with a bunt the first 2 pitches. Play a little run and hit and run. Make Singleton stay on the baseball. Even if he misses the pitch, Durham can fly. You might get a stolen base out of it.
Another step and a toss.
You make Durham really make this guy make a mistake at home plate by getting a good lead. Utilize the speed you have at first base. Durham has 9 stolen bases, been caught 4 times. 2-2 to me is a great running count, a run and hit count, as opposed to hit and run, and I'll explain that in a minute. Hit and run, you have to swing the bat. The hitter must swing the bat no matter where the pitch is. Run and hit is a must-run sign where the hitter protects him if it's a strike, if he feels he wants to swing the bat. He doesn't have to swing at it. But it puts pressure on a 2-2 count because the pitcher doesn't want to go to 3-2, so a lot of times they're throwing a strike right here. So you might open up a hole in the infield, and it's called a run and hit. It's a hitter's option.
There goes Durham, and Singleton swats it out of play. No, he's going to be awarded first base. They're calling catcher's interference on LaRue. And what a break for the Chicago White Sox. LaRue can't believe it. But just as the ball reached the stands, Greg Gibson, the home plate umpire, said, we're going to give you first base, Mr. Singleton. And here comes Bob Boone.
Yeah, good move right there by Jerry Manuel having Ray Durham run. I love the count to run on, especially with a guy like Durham, as fast as he is, because he can almost outrun the ball. And by doing that, LaRue tried to get out there quick on a stolen base attempt, and that's why Singleton hit the glove. See LaRue, he's already coming out because he knows Durham was stealing. If Durham wasn't stealing, that would not have happened.
So suddenly 2 on, 1 out. New pitcher coming on. Back in a moment.
Was in motion with a stolen base attempt. Jason LaRue, the catcher, has to get started. I mean, he has to make a weight transfer, which normally you won't do if nobody's in motion. So take a look. Therefore, the catcher's interference. He's transferring the weight to the left side right there, trying to get out around the ball quickly so he can square up and throw a strike to second base. And by doing that, he reached out a little bit too soon. Singleton, who has been known to do that, swung a little bit late, and there was catcher interference. He made contact with the glove before the ball.
Reds fans can appreciate that. Pete Rose 29 times in his career reached on catcher's interference, a major league record. Singleton does it here in a big spot. Makes it 2 on, just 1 out. Scott Sullivan comes on to face the righty slugger Carlos Lee. Towards the right field corner, the very first pitch is fair. And a run scores as it bounces out of play. They're going to hold Singleton at third, and coasting in a second is Carlos Lee.
Well, Scott Sullivan is the right-handed version of Chicago's Kelly Wunsch. He's a drop-down guy from the right side like Wunsch is from the left side. But Carlos Lee is such a good hitter. That's why he's hitting over 300 every year. He can pull a fastball in like he did last night. He can also take a slider down and away and go opposite field right there. Great piece of hitting. He knew exactly who he was facing. Look at that right there, the concentration on a low pitch. And he shoots it into the right field corner. Great piece of hitting. That's why he's hitting third in this lineup.
And the Reds aren't going to mess around. They're going to put on Maglio Ordonez intentionally. That'll load the bases with 1 out. And it is the percentages move. However, it lines it up for Paul Konerko, who's already got a grand slam tonight. They're going to put it on a platter for him. See if he can get grand slam number 2.
But it's the right move. You're looking double play, and he's the right guy. Konerko can definitely hurt you, as we know, but he can also hit the 6-4-3 double play. Ordonez is a 2-time All-Star. You got to do this situation right here. Now let's take a look again at Carlos Lee from the side. Right here, watch the legs right here. He's going to go down and get this low pitch, loading up on the back leg, right? He's loading up right there. See the bend of the knee? He knows his ball is down. He's going to go right through the baseball. You've got to use your legs to hit low pitches. That's why pitchers are taught to pitch down, because a lot of hitters don't use their legs. That's why they can hit the high pitch, because you don't have to use your legs as much. A low pitch, you got to go down and get it. Carlos Lee did.
Paul Konerko, the slam in the first inning. And the fans jonesing for some deja vu here in the 7th. Got a chance, but there's Clark. And tagging coming home is Singleton. He'll settle for a 5 RBI night. Paul Konerko. And boy, that catcher's interference call, mighty big.
Huge. Huge right there, because Singleton really didn't have a good swing. It was buttoned twice on Mercado. Just a protection swing right there with Ray Durham in motion. But you see, it's the little things. It's by the manager putting Durham in motion right there that created that. Forced LaRue to come out of the chute too soon. He makes contact with the bat as Singleton's trying to make contact with the ball. Catcher's interference sets up the whole inning.
McKay Christensen will come into the game to pinch run. As the White Sox have already loaded it up to 7-5. And Harold Baines coming up.
Now you may wonder, why is he pinch running right now for Carlos Lee? It's because Jerry Manuel's playing the game to win right now. He's going for his best defensive outfielder. Carlos Lee is not a good defensive outfielder. He figures, hey, I don't expect Carlos Lee to come up in the bottom of the 9th, because I expect us to win the game in the top of the 9th.
Harold Baines. And was he hit with the pitch, or did it simply knock the bat out of his hands? He's actually reaching down.
Well, he's had a hamstring problem, for one. Let's take a look. That ball ran in on him right there. He tried to get out of the way. I think he pulled a hamstring.
Yep, tweaked the hammy trying to get out of the way.
He's had a problem already. He twisted it. You know, take a look at the back leg right here. Using the legs as he pivots right there. He tried to pivot and then get out of the way at the same time. And he definitely tweaked it. He's done.
Jeff Leifer will come on to finish the at-bat for the 42-year-old Harold Baines. Boy, as if the White Sox needed any more in the injury department.
Well, Jose Valentin, that's what he did. He's got a hamstring problem. He said it was up high. He felt fine. It was a little bit tight. He was playing through it. Then all of a sudden he did a quick movement like that, like you just saw. And he said, then I just pulled it all the way down. And he's on the disabled list.
So Leeper will come up and won't have the usual complement of 4 balls and 3 strikes to work with. He'll have 3 balls and 2 strikes to work with here. 1-1 count that he inherits.
At least it's even, though. He's not down 0-2.
Well, Leeper essentially about half the age of the man that he's stepping in for. And he can break this game open here. You've got 2 on, 2 out, already 7-5 Chicago.
What you're seeing the last couple of innings here, the final 9 outs, is exactly what Major League managers get paid for. The mixing and matching. That's where the game is at, especially close games. Almost like the first 5 innings as a manager, you breathe easy. Once you get to closing time, 7th, 8th, 9th, you really have to put on your thinking cap. And you're battling the other guy. You're battling the other manager's style.
Leeper, by the way, a .250 hitter, 3 home runs. And he stretches out, rolls it slowly. Sean Casey got a hustle and gets it there in time to draw the inning to a close. The White Sox get 2. They lead 7-5. Thursday Night Baseball on Fox Family, brought to you by Lotrimin AF. Get the cure that's proven to kill athlete's foot on the whole foot. Lotrimin AF, the killer cure. And by Nissan. Driven. Now some changes to tell you about. Certainly the most important, a new pitcher coming on there for the White Sox. Bobby Howry in a 7-5 game as we get to the 8th inning. Out in the outfield, too, Chris Singleton has moved from center to left. And McKay Christensen stays in the game. He will play center field. There are the numbers on Howry.
Yeah, pretty good numbers from Bobby Howry. 3.5 earned run average. Does have 3 saves. He'll save a game occasionally when Keith Foulke cannot pitch that night, or when Jerry Manuel says, hey, I'm not going to use Foulke if he's pitched 3 nights in a row. So tonight I would expect Howry to try to get through this inning, and I would expect Keith Foulke to come back and pitch the 9th.
Ruben Rivera down on the count, 2-1. Kevin, you started talking about the chess game. The 2 managers, Jerry Manuel, Bob Boone. Now I can ask you as a former manager, I mean, is that kind of what you get into the business for in the first place?
Exactly why managers go back to managing like Bob Boone has, wanting a second chance again. You live for situations like this. This is what the fun is of it. And I disagree with the people that believe that managers have nothing to do with the outcome of a game. They absolutely do. It's the decisions they do make, but it's also the decisions they don't make. It's guys that are afraid to pull the trigger, guys that are afraid to make the opposition make a move. Well, Jerry Manuel's not afraid to make moves. He's going to force you to make a move offensively. He's going to bring his right-hander in, his left-hander in, and that's why when you design your ball club and you design your lineup, you want to have bench strength. You want to have a balance of lefties off the bench, righties off the bench. You want a little speed off the bench. You don't want everybody in the same mold. Those predominantly right-handed hitting lineups, for example, they're easy to pitch to. You don't have to mix and match so much.
Rivera down on strikes. First out, 8th inning. Jerry Manuel, you know, most managers talk about the book, the text that talks about what you must do in given situations. Ironically, Kevin, this man named Manuel really has no manual. He manages on what he calls a sense, instinct for the move that feels right.
Well, what he's talking about is being around the game so long, being around Felipe Alou, managing himself in the minor leagues, managing in an Arizona Fall League like he did. You experience situations, and what he's talking about, it's not a guess. Well, you know what, I'm going to do this tonight. It's knowing your ball club, knowing the opposition.
Selby drills it to first. There's Konerko.
That's what life's all about, as a matter of fact. I mean, it's like driving down the street one day, you say, you know what, I'm going to take a different route today. Well, why do you do that? And you find out there was an accident last night in that spot. That's what good managers do. They have a feel for their club.
Folks, don't forget Fox Family next Thursday. Derek Jeter and the Yankees against Tony Clark and the Tigers. Check it out at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, right here on Fox Family. Well, and just get back to Jerry Manuel, too. You know, he studied at the side of two top flight managers as a bench coach, Felipe Alou and Jim Leland, which he refers to as Harvard and Yale, respectively.
Well, I was the first bench coach for Felipe Alou, and I can tell you there were certain things Felipe did extremely well and certain things that I felt, I'm going to do it different when I become a manager, and I'm sure Jerry's the same way. You pick and learn from people you're around. I had my own mentors, people I played for. I played for a lot of catchers. I played for a guy like Doc Edwards years ago. I played for a catcher in the Orioles system, Jimmy Schaefer. I was around Tommy Lasorda a lot in the Dodger organization. I was around other instructors a lot that I picked their brains. But by and large, when you become a manager, you're in your own realm there. You do your own thing and you learn from your experiences. And that's what Jerry Manuel's done.
Count drops to 1-2 on Jason LaRue. White Sox still leading 7-5.
But the situation dictates the moves you make. So in essence, it's your own book based on the score and the count and how many outs. Those are the three most important things of a ball game. And that's why catchers make good managers, because they always have to be aware of the score, the count, and how many outs. In
the interest of full disclosure, Kevin Kennedy's former position.
Well, I didn't say it for that reason, but it really is. You're the only man defensively looking at your guys on the field. The catcher, Josh Paul, right now, he's the only guy back there. As we see Keith Fulk, he'll be coming for the ninth. And you know Jerry Manuel, you know what he's going to do. You study the managers as well as you do the opposition, so you know that managing against Jerry, hey, this is what he's going to do from the 7th inning on.
And it's funny, as many ex-catchers as there are that have been successful managers, so few ex-pitchers have carried it off. I mean, Lasorda, Fred Hutchinson, Bob Lemon, a few of the successful exceptions, but for the most part, catchers and second basemen seem to be the guys that are able to slide in most successfully.
Well, I think it's guys that play every day that are out there, and the reason I say catchers more than any, because they're running the game from behind the plate. They're much like a manager themselves.
Jerry Manuel, his team in front right now, 7-5. White Sox 7 and the Reds 5 into the bottom of the 8th as we turn on the bubble machine. And a crowd trying to stay cool here on a very hot night on the south side of Chicago. We topped out at 93 degrees this afternoon. Very humid. And thunder
making contact with the camera. I know, she heard me.
Need a little more juice there.
Take some bubbles this way.
Now, Scott Sullivan stays in the game for Cincinnati. And facing the lower third of the Chicago batting order, the White Sox led this game 4-0 and 5-1. They were caught at 5-5. Now they lead again 7-5.
Well, Paul Konerko's been a big part of that. The big grand slam in the first inning, and then the sac fly he had last inning. He's driven in 5 runs tonight.
Could he be an all-star?
You know, if the batting average was higher, I'd say it's a possibility. But I'll tell you, I think Carlos Lee has a shot, and I think Ordonez again has a shot. The 3 and 4 hitters. All-star game's just around the corner.
I'll tell you, Mags Ordonez is making another serious run as well to represent. He's on a pace for 37 home runs, 123 RBI. Creedy down on strikes. That sounds suspiciously like the year he had last year.
Yeah, and after a tough start, you know, talking to the guys before the ball game, I asked each and every one of them, the guys that I talked to, how much they felt they missed Frank Thomas, and they said they missed him a lot. This guy, you know, is a guy who hits 40 home runs every year, hits 330, and Ordonez, Carlos Lee, really all the guys felt the pressure of not having their big guy, big hurt in the middle of the lineup, so they were trying to do more than they were capable. Swinging at bad pitches, trying to force the issue. And now they've all come together. They're playing within themselves. They got past the David Wells, Frank Thomas so-called controversy, which I found out wasn't really that big of a deal. David challenging Frank Thomas, saying, hey, you're not really hurt that bad, get in the lineup. And Jerry Manuel said it was more like a joke at first. It wasn't a, you know, I was just, you know, David speaks out, kind of got on him, and then the guys kind of jumped on the bandwagon. Even Paul Konerko told me, he says, I jumped on the bandwagon too, but then we found out he wasn't swinging good in batting practice. He just didn't look right. And everybody said, hey, you know, we're sorry. And David Wells and Frank Thomas have put that to rest. David and Frank have put it behind him. Frank's in the clubhouse all the time. They're joking around, and all is good in Chicago.
And now the rumors persist, as we mentioned earlier, that David Wells might be moving on. But again, the White Sox adamant right now, saying, no, we think we're in this thing, and we need David Wells.
Well, and you know, the Yankees are the biggest player talking about it, because Ted Lilly, you know, at times shows sparks of being a good starter for the Yankees, but he hasn't established himself yet. Clemens is throwing great, but they've got question marks with El Duque now having toe surgery. They've got pitching questions in that starting rotation. They've got hitting questions also, but boy, if they get a guy like David Wells, and also you want to block a Boston Red Sox team from trying to acquire David Wells, and vice versa. And that's what goes on when you're dealing in this time with trades. You know, this is the time when you start saying, hey, either we're going to go for the pennant or we're going to sell off our players. And I think at this point the White Sox are going again for the pennant, or at least a wild card.
And we'll check back in on August 6th. That is when 4 years ago Jerry Reinsdorf gave the go-ahead to say, hey, let's get all the guys with value out of here and retool.
But I'll tell you, if the Sox had not won 15 of their last 18 and had, you know, about 15, 18 games under, you'd see some trades.
Royce Clayton needing desperately to pump up that batting average, able to loop one into center field. He's 1 for 4 now tonight. Just his 20th hit all season.
Well, boy, you need that when you're slumping. You'll take a blooper, a blast, anything, a bunt, anything. Royce Clayton right here gets his hands inside that ball. Did a nice job right there. That was a short swing. Ball was in on him. Drops into center field. That can get you started.
White Sox looking for a little bit of insurance here. And they hand it to the catcher, Josh Paul. 0 for 3 tonight. He's bunting. And it's foul.
You know, speaking about possible trades, I think you're going to see Texas start to dump some of their guys, Josh.
Yeah, as they sink further and further behind Seattle. Interesting, Josh Paul grew up on the north side of Chicago, but it was a south side catcher that had his attention, Carlton Fisk.
Well, Carlton Fisk was a phenomenal catcher. This guy could do everything defensively, great hitter, and got himself into the Hall of Fame. The 72, of course, the reverse of his number in Boston, which was 27.
And that's the number that Josh Paul wears for that reason. But on the north side, he took some abuse. Those are Cubs fans up there. Ground ball. Here comes Pokey Reese. And in fact, Josh Paul reports that when the White Sox selected him in the draft, I mean, it was bedlam at the Paul household, and they're all White Sox fans there. They couldn't believe their good fortune.
Well, he did the job right there. Jerry Mann wanted to get one more guy in a scoring position, try to get a 3-run lead with a base hit here, and a little chopper does the job. Moves the runner up.
Well, if there's insurance to be had, it'll be cashed in by Durham, batting with 2 out. Durham walked and scored last time. We mentioned we are expecting some thunderstorms a little later. Apparently later is about now.
It's about a half inning of Keith Folk away.
Yes. And they've got a fireworks show set for after the game, so they're trying to hustle to
well,
not only win the game but keep the crowd around.
They may get more than they expected tonight. Don't wear metal spikes.
There's a strike from Sullivan. 2-1 as you look ahead to the 9th inning. Deion Sanders scheduled to lead it off for the Reds. Then it's Pokey Reese, so certainly some guys that can run. And it'll be up to Keith Folk, assumably, to keep him off the bases. Count now 2-2. Yeah, hot and humid in Chicago usually means thunderstorms are not far behind.
Ray Durham's 7th inning walk actually was a big part of this ball game because by being in motion forced Jason LaRue to interfere with Singleton, and that really opened up the inning in the 7th for the White Sox. Yep. Even though he walked in that inning, didn't get the base hit, Ray Durham has helped the Sox get ahead in this ball game.
Now the Reds with the 1 in the 7th to tie it, but then the Sox with 2 in the bottom of the inning. Durham hacking that one foul back to the net.
Close enough on that 3-2 pitch. That was a ball outside, but Ray Durham not taking any chances to get rung up in this situation with a man in scoring position. That's what he just asked the umpire. Was that outside? But you got to protect the outside corner, and he fought that pitch off. He's going to get another pitch now.
To left field, and there's Clark. He's got it. So now it's up to that Chicago White Sox bullpen. 7-5. And the 9th inning straight ahead. And now for our Lotrimin feat of the game. Paul Konerko, 1st inning. It's a pretty good feat right here. Opposite field grand slam, part of a 5 RBI night for the White Sox first baseman, the Lotrimin. Great feat of the game. And the White Sox bring a 7-5 lead to the 9th inning with the rain just about here at Comiskey now. So you're fighting the elements, and you're fighting Keith Folk if you're Cincinnati.
He's tough out of the bullpen. He's got that great changeup. He's got a decent fastball, but not an overpowering fastball. But his out pitch, got a great changeup. Almost a strikeout per inning, less hits than innings pitched. That's great. If you're 1-1, you're doing a good job. He's well below that.
Yeah, not your typical hard throwing closer. But you look around these days, Kevin, softer tossers are becoming more prevalent in late innings.
Well, there's a few good. Trevor Hoffman in San Diego comes to mind. Great changeup.
Sanders running through that one. It's 1-2. You got Bob Wickman, for example, Jeff Shaw. Those guys don't exactly throw lights out.
That's right. But what you have to do as a closer is throw strikes, and Folk does that. He's only walked 11 in 34 plus innings. You've got to throw strikes, have good control with some movement on your pitches.
Got him. 1 down, 9th inning.
Talk about movement, Josh. That was a 2-seamer right there going down and away. Took a little off. They say he's got that great changeup. Watch this movement right here. Halfway, it looks like a regular fastball. Watch the bottom fall out. Fading away right off the outside corner. Deion Sanders looking towards center field. Pulled off the baseball. It's a big league pitch right there.
Now Pokey Reese, who singled and stole 2 bases last time up. If the Reds lose this game, they'll be 14 under. If the White Sox hang on and win, they'll be to within 2 games of 500. Remember, they were 15 under at one point. Packed out of play, 0-2.
And I'll tell you what you try to do. We're in the middle of June right now. You've got the All-Star break coming up in another 3.5 weeks. What you try to do by that time is, number 1, get to 500 first. Number 2, get to where you're behind less than 10 games. If you can knock it down about 7 games out, 6 games out, maybe 8 games out, you're in the hunt. You're in the hunt right there, because the first place clubs feel you coming.
A little looper. Konerko back. Basket catch, 2 down.
Great play right there. Great night for Konerko. 5 runs driven in. Now a nice defensive play. And I tell you, Chicago's coming. They are really playing well. Nice basket catch, like Willie Mays right there.
And the White Sox will have their chances. 13 more games against the Twins, 14 more against the Indians. And remember, those 2 teams play each other 15 times, and they can knock each other out a little bit.
I tell you, it's tough to start out the season in first place and remain there and not feel the pressure of the teams coming behind you. And we went through this in '95 from wire to wire. But boy, the second half down the stretch, it was tough to finish it off down the stretch, because you felt the Yankees coming. You felt them 5 games back, and you start feeling that pressure. The Sox really are in the driver's seat. There's no pressure on them. Nobody expected them to get back in the race this year. They're playing free and easy right now.
Ochoa, ground ball. Royce Clayton backhands. And at the stroke of 9 o'clock Central Time, the Chicago White Sox have defeated the Cincinnati Reds maybe a minute before the rain comes.
And a great outing, I think, for James Baldwin. He got the critical start that Jerry Manuel said was important. We saw a good fastball tonight late in the game, good overhand curveball. He doesn't get the win, but a good sign to get your starter back throwing pretty well tonight.
Konerko, the grand slam, a 5 RBI night. Polk saves it, and the White Sox have won it. They are now heading off to St. Louis. That's it from Comiskey. We invite you now to remember to tune in tomorrow for a special edition of FX Baseball Saturday Night. The Mets and the Yankees from Shea. Coverage of that will begin at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. That's Friday on FX. Thursday Night Baseball continues next week and every Thursday night this season on Fox Family. Next week, the Yankees and the Tigers. Now coming up next on Fox Family, the scariest place on earth. And out west, 2 of a kind. For Kevin Kennedy, Josh Lewin, your final 7-5 Chicago.